Good morning to everybody. Welcome to Crete. Welcome to Heraklion. I will switch to mother language, to Greek. So please, you have to use your microphone. Κυρίες και κύριοι, καλημέρα, καλώς ήρθατε.
Good morning, welcome.
Καλημέρα, καλώς ήρθατε εκ μέρους της περιφέρειας Κρήτης της CRPM. Σας καλωσορίζω στο διήμερο των σεμιναρίων μας. Θα σας μεταφέρω καταρχήν το χαιρετισμό του Περιφερειάρχη Κρήτης, Σταύρου
greeting from the Governor of Crete, Mr. Anautakis, who is currently outside Ireland and you won't be here with us.
Να ευχαριστήσω για την παρουσία του και τη συμμετοχή του στο συνέδριό μας, τον κύριο Μανώλη Κουτουλάκη, τον Γενικό Γραμματέα Νησιωτικής Πολιτικής,
of the Aegean and Ireland policy, honors his city where he was born, and he wants to contribute greatly in the regional development of Crete and of the city of Heraklion.
Ήθελα επίσης να ευχαριστήσω τον κύριο David Strangis, που είναι ο αναπληρωτής Γενικός Γραμματέας της CRPM, και την κυρία Καρίν Διευθύντρια των θεμάτων μεταφορών της CRPM. Ευχαριστίες επίσης σε όλο το team της CRPM που δούλεψε μαζί με τους Έλληνες συναδέλφους μας εδώ στην περιφέρεια Κρήτης, στην δική μας ομάδα,
our own team who worked together in order to make this seminars a reality.
Θέλω να ευχαριστήσω όλους εσάς που ήρθατε από τόσο μακριά στο Ηράκλειο και στην Κρήτη για να συζητήσουμε σήμερα και αύριο τα πολύ ενδιαφέροντα θέματα. Όμως έχουμε σήμερα κοντά μας και Έλληνες πολιτικούς εκπροσώπους από τις περιφέρειες της Ελλάδος, για τους οποίους πρέπει να κάνω μια ειδική αναφορά, την κυρία Χαρούλα Γιασιράνη από την περιφέρεια του Νοτίου Αιγαίου, την Αντιπεριφερειάρχη του Νοτίου Αιγαίου, που ήρθε για να μας τιμήσει, τον κύριο Δαλκιτζή Χάρη, που ήρθε από την Ανατολική Μακεδονία και Θράκη, είναι ο Αντιπεριφερειάρχης Εξωστρέφειας και Διεθνών Σχέσεων. Και τώρα μπορώ να περάσω στους δικούς μας, τους κριτικούς, τον κύριο Ξυλού, Λασιτίου, και είναι μαζί μας και τον ευχαριστούμε πολύ, ο Πρίαμο τον Ιερονημάκη, τον συνάδελφο Περιφερειακό Σύμβουλο, το κύριο Γιαλιτάκη τον Νίκο, τον αναπληρωτή,
who is Vice Governor of Heraklion, Vice Mayor, of Heraklion, and thank you for your presence and your participation, because we will be talking about some issues that are connected with the cities, and of course the cities that have ports, as is the case with Heraklion. I also would like to thank Mr. Kritsotakis, the General Director of the region of Crete, as regards sustainable development, because the topic of sustainable development is the broader issue that concerns us all. Also would like to thank each one of you, the professors and the researchers from the Institute of Research and Technology, and other participants who will be giving us an insight on their own insight. I also would like to talk about the current events in Valencia, taking place in Valencia these past few days, and in Barcelona. David will share his personal experience yesterday at the airport of Barcelona, when it was impossible for him to reach the airport to take his flight. And this indicates that even the most organized countries, well-organized countries such as Spain, cannot cope with extreme weather phenomena that are so severe. After a prolonged drought, we have the phenomenon of flood of 500 millimeters of water within an 8-hour period. So we need to reschedule and change the way we are planning because of the climate change. What does this mean? We need to change the way we build our infrastructure and adding new dimensions in this. Perhaps we need to replan and redesign our infrastructure. So what do we need? Do we need to give more emphasis on environmental planning? To lay more emphasis on determining the boundaries of rivers and specific works against flooding, and how we manage rainwater, open spaces and spaces that are not closed. I would like also to dedicate some seconds for these areas that are not sealed. This is a very important parameter because they help the absorption of water, rainwater. When we lay cement everywhere, when we tile entire areas, when we cover entire areas, this means this cannot function properly and absorb water. This can be easily seen if you visit the platform Copernicus and see this network in several areas, several cities of Europe, and you will see that there has been the results of this. How sealed are our and isolated are our cities, how difficult it is for the water to be absorbed. So we need to redesign our infrastructure in our ports, in our road network, in airports, hospitals, in the main squares of the cities. Today we'll see a specific example, the case of the port of Heraklion and the resilience study of the port of Heraklion as a good practice, and we'll evaluate it altogether to see whether this can serve as a good practice for other ports as well. Today's meeting debate has to do with transport. Tomorrow we'll be talking about hydrogen. Unfortunately, several of our speakers, those who were scheduled to visit Heraklion and Crete, didn't manage to travel to Crete, mainly for two reasons. First reason are the floods in Valencia. So all our Spanish colleagues had to stay there, with whom we planned together this 2-day seminar. I also would like all of us as members of the region of Crete and as the conference, to express our solidarity to our friends in Valencia and in Barcelona. The second reason for the absence of several of the people that have been invited, some people that were very important for this meeting, is that members of the European Parliament and members of the European Commission. Yesterday was the day of the evaluation or the hearing day, as we say in the European jargon, the hearing about the new Commissioner of Transport, Greek, Mr. Apostolos Zizikostas from Greece. And maybe as you have already been informed, it was a success, it was positively evaluated. So transport and tourism shape the everyday life of millions of people and affect the connectivity, the economy and environment of Europe. Mr. Zizikostas' candidacy was approved with a vast majority by the European Commission, and we hope when we invite him, he will be here with us in a future meeting. So we'll go on with our debates through online. They have an online presence of several speakers because it was impossible for them to be here with us. The first issue we'll be talking today are transports, especially ports, seaports, and their resilience and their adaptability, resilience and adaptation of these ports, as we say here in Crete. These are the terms that needs to be implemented in our future planning. We will listen members of parliament, specialists from the European Seaport Organization, ESPO. We'll listen from experts on ports, and then we'll be talking about the trans-European networks on transport and the role of ports in this. Tomorrow we'll be talking about hydrogen, because why? We will be talking about the hydrogen because hydrogen can store a lot of energy and also an alternative fuel that will reduce the carbon emissions and will contribute in mitigating the effects of the climate change. So that's why we'll talk about hydrogen. It has been developing a competition within Greece concerning the production and distribution of hydrogen within Europe. Competition between regions, states, macro regions, valleys, and hydrogen pipelines, hydrogen lines. In the region of Crete, we have already taken a very important decision during the regional council to create a committee for promoting hydrogen, and in this committee all the stakeholders participate: the regional government, the chambers, the technical chamber and the commercial chamber of Crete, institutes that are academic institutes of research, other competent authorities, in order to be informed and inform as well the society and the companies and the economy as regards the challenges regarding environment. We'll be talking more about hydrogen tomorrow. I'll give the floor now to our speakers. Let's begin with Mr. Degis Strangis, who is the Vice General Secretary of the conference. Thank you all for your presence.
Thank you very much, George Alexakis. Thank you, Vice President, because you are Vice President of the CPMR for Transport. No one introduced you, so I'm going to do it. Thank you also to your team for the organization of this very important, interesting event. Region of Crete has been very active in the CPMR during the last decade, I would say, or more, even more. It's like 40 years at least that you are very active in our association with different roles at the level of the Intermediate Commission, the CPMR Political Bureau, and currently you are holding the portfolio for transport and accessibility, which is also the reason why we are here today speaking about these very important topics. So thanks once more, and also for having hosted us here once more in this beautiful place and islands. The last time we came here was for the General Assembly. Okay. Sorry. Can I go afterwards? Because this is just to introduce the first speaker.
You won't be seen for
No problem. I will go there afterwards. All right. So now I wanted just to introduce the first speaker in the opening session. I will say a couple of words more to conclude this session, but we are very lucky today to count also on a very good friend of the CPMR, as Vice President George Alexakis said before, Manolis Koutoulakis. We were here together, of course, in 2022 for the General Assembly of the CPMR when Crete hosted it. And we have shared many other meetings in between, and we were just together in Brussels a few days ago because of this important meetings on insularity, which is the core of your portfolio. What's your take, of course, on the main topics that we are discussing today, and also maybe how can we improve our synergies? Manolis, thank you for coming.
Good morning. I have just a one-pager, so don't worry. I'll be brief. And welcome to our friends, the non-Greek friends. So my first introduction will be in English, but then I will move on with the Greek language. It's always a pleasure to be here in Crete, and I'm quite sure that our colleagues from abroad will enjoy Crete, but at the same time realize why Crete and why the region of Crete is a pioneer in all these subjects in Greece. And I think it's an opportunity to have regional dialogues like that, but also with the directions to Brussels, but also to other members. Kalimera se όλους. Good morning to all. It is very important for me to join events, seminars, conferences hosted by the CPMR. As Davide said, collaboration is key. I would like to start off by thanking CPMR for the invitation. I would like to thank George Alexakis and the region of Crete as well, because what happens at CPMR level and at the region of Crete is something we need to share with other regions. It is very important that you are here today, dear friends and colleagues from other maritime regions. What CPMR has already achieved is becoming a political platform which has put the political cohesion, the policy cohesion at the heart of many institutions, not just those of Europe. And it is part of a very important discussion we're leading today. The role of the regions is mostly focused on how to manage funds in order to build infrastructure, how to balance internal imbalances within a region or cross-border imbalances. This is important. But now we need to discuss how decarbonization, how green transition, and the challenges of technology, green fuels, how all that affect transport. You do understand that this challenge alone is very considerable. We're very happy that the Vice Chair of the transport portfolio is led by George Alexakis. It is a rather not simple portfolio. Today and tomorrow during this conference and this event, we will be able to showcase how important it is to foster and promote infrastructure, electrification, and how all these aspects affect the regional and local development, starting with ports. I guess this is the framework of the discussions we need to stick to during these days, and as George Alexakis said, the circumstances are key. Yesterday, the portfolio of the Commissioner of Transport, and originating from von der Leyen, and adopted also from all institutional partners in the European Parliament. The portfolio on sustainable transport is held by Greek. This does not mean that he is representing Greek interests. The President of the Maritime Transport at the European Parliament, Ms. Vosenberg, is also Greek. We have experienced colleagues, but we're first Europeans. And then, of course, it is very important as a fact because for Greece, maritime transport determines also, is at the core of the Greek economy. And the role of maritime business should be fostered within the European Union. Any challenge to our ports and ships affects the competitiveness of the economy. This should be understood. More than 90% of freight is transported by sea. You do understand that maritime transport and shipping are considerable and significant. We shouldn't treat it as, as an experiment. We need to introduce changes in the shipping and maritime business based on well-tested scenario. I think this is very important to be said. We shouldn't forget it, because the self-purpose, green transition as a self-purpose should not be just that. Should be a vehicle of change. It is a new paradigm for the green transition, and we should always understand that we remain competitive at local and cross-border level. Mr. Alexakis talks about competitiveness and resilience. Adaptation and resilience, these are very important, and the port of Heraklion can showcase that. We are happy to talk about the port of Heraklion at international fora. This was designed and developed under state ownership under Mr. Papadakis and his team. We have to understand that staff is important, the staff that brings change. We're looking forward to listen to the resilience plan, knowing the team that has developed it, and we're very happy, we're very proud of the Greek port scientists who can deliver very considerable results. We find ourselves in a transitional period for transport. We should not forget that sea transport does not involve ports and infrastructure. We need to understand that measuring ships is also important. The clients of the ports, of the seaports, decisions on investment in infrastructure should be directly linked to investments that private entities undertake on ships, and this is not always self-evident. The discussion with CPMR should link to important concepts. Cohesion is something you're very well aware of. You're a pioneer in that. I think it's time we linked a new industrial policy of the Union for Green Transition. Two concepts that are not directly linked. Cohesion, that is vertically organized, and new industrial policies, the new industrial support package of the European Commission, through which technology, fuels and infrastructure are supported, and make sure that each one of them supports the other. This is a directly linked challenge, as we at the Technical University would say, Mr. Alexakis. The challenge of decarbonization fosters the change, but it should bring to the benefit of the national and European economies. Our ministry, as you're well aware of, is investing in ports. We have interlinked insular interconnectivity with the energy transition and tackling climate crisis at ports. More than 300 million euros are invested right now. Very happy that part of it affects also Crete, because the ports of Crete can play a regional role and is also linked to challenges for energy transition. Priorities to our ministry are energy transition, decarbonization of shipping, the correct governance of the change, the debate and the discussion with the shipping business, with the commerce of shipping, with European partners, as to how the maritime transition can go hand in hand with funding. And Green Deal is not just a theory we have to talk about. We shouldn't be theorizing. Green transition is linked to a cost, to a considerable cost, and therefore it should not be just a purpose per se. Any investment should not lead to costs and losses to other industry sectors. And of course, the geopolitical circumstances and conditions that make it even more important to become energy self-sufficient, to secure supply. And of course, green valleys, hydrogen valleys, and the ports can help become self-sufficient at a local level within a system where Europe is secured and safeguarded against great changes. Next steps, Mr. Alexakis and David, a vertical and horizontal collaboration. With this cross-regional collaboration, it is very important that the regions with a high footprint are taking part in that. We can see what the Alexandroupolis port transition can bring, how it changes the city of Alexandroupolis, how it provides different opportunities and perspectives as to Southern Aegean. The maritime and tourism concept is very important. We have to see how we can serve cruise ships and business. With George Hadjimarkos, we're investing, of course, resources, and it's very important to incorporate sustainability. Mr. Alexakis and dear David, as of the introduction of the portfolio of the new commissioner, together with the waterborne technology platform with which there is a collaboration, we will welcome you to talk to the people guiding, leading the technology at ships in order to be to know that we can link and tie our funds. We'd like to thank you. The Ministry of Insular Policy is always following closely, and we're very happy and we're looking forward to further initiatives. Thank you.
Thank you, the Secretary General, for this meaningful presentation speech. It was not a mere greeting, a standard greeting as always, but he mentioned the very important issues that we are facing currently in Greece, and especially the Greek shipping business and industry. I would like to say that Mr. Manolis Christodoulakis, the Member of Parliament, Greek Member of Parliament, I call him Manolis because we are streaming through social media in other countries. Mr. Christodoulakis works on issues concerning the environment and at the Pan-Hellenic Socialist Party, PASOK. We'll move now to Mr. David Strangis and his speech. I forgot to mention the presence of Mr. Ioannidis, an expert on ports. Mr. Ioannidis, he was CEO of the port of Patras several years ago, and since then he was a huge lover and enthusiast of ports.
George and Manolis, in particular, for what you said. Also, I would like to follow up on your proposal of collaboration also with the waterborne technology platform. I think it's a good idea and a good opportunity for our member regions. So we will indeed liaise to put it in practice and implement this collaboration in the future months. So thanks for that. I would like also to say that unfortunately today we are not counting on the chair of the working group of the ICPMR on transport, Aragon, our colleagues from the region of Aragon, for obvious reasons and also for unforeseen circumstances. They are listening online, but they were not able to come. Finally, that's a pity, but they are with us in the spirit. So having said that, of course, you have already framed, let's say, the main topics. Also, you have mentioned the hearings. You know, this was also a bit unfortunate for us that in the end they were delayed to the first week of November, when we had long time ago planned this seminar. But we have the opportunity to count on online speakers from the European institutions today, and indeed the outcomes of the hearing yesterday of the Greek Designated Commissioner were really interesting, and I'm sure we will follow up during the day on this too.
Now, indeed, European transport issues, in particular, and ports and energy are the bulk of the conversation for us today. In particular, of course, the recently revised TEN-T and the upcoming CEF3 budget, for which the CPMR also approved an initial policy position a few weeks ago in Gozo, in Malta. We had already some interesting discussions that are linked indeed to something very important, that's the completion of the TEN-T transport network, the infrastructure that we need to complete the internal market. And of course, we are projecting ourselves in what we need for the future programming period, the funding that we need, that for sure, as it is for now, is not adequate to the needs and demands of the regions. This is one, of course, of our key messages in this policy position. We will discuss and present later today also some maps that are of interest for our members, also to project precisely the discussion in the future on the missing links, what we still need, on top of what needs to be implemented that has been included in the last approved proposals. And that's very important. There are also some cross-border links that are especially important for all our regions across Europe, from north to south, from east to west. Of course, we as organization play a role for the promotion, of course, of the role of the ports, maritime ports, TEN-T network, and in particular, the role of ports in climate and energy transition. They are, our ports, of course, playing a key role at level of multimodal transport and energy hubs, and at the same time, they need to be more resilient and secure. That's precisely why we picked this topic to be discussed today. And of course, ports resilience and ports as energy hubs, of course, needs to build up on the Green Deal, the Fit for 55 package, and so on and so forth. Of course, we expect a bit the discussions of today to build up and to feed new messages that we can also deliver as an organization, because we are a lobbying organization to the European Parliament, in particular to the TRAN and the ITRE committees that were constituted just a few months ago. So the idea indeed is to raise our voice and do sort of effort of critical mass that we do at the CPMR to deliver those messages. And also there are important things and new things like the U-Port strategy that can also kind of embed our demands or not. So if it is not the case, we should raise our voice to communicate the needs of our regions. Then on a more practical note, when we are over with the seminar this morning, we will continue working in our internal working group that will be open, exceptionally this time, also to local stakeholders, which is also an interesting thing to do as we are here in Crete. We will discuss about the priorities for the future. So that's good always to brainstorm periodically on what we need for the future. And we will also count on presentations and inputs from institutions and, for instance, also from the European Institute of Innovation and Technology, the 8 on urban mobility. And I think that will be also an important thing to discuss because that will be providing us some new opportunities for funding and for synergies. So stay tuned for that, also our online participants, indeed. And we will conclude the day with a study visit, I think also very interesting, to the hydrogen laboratory of the University of Crete. So I will not be able to join you, unfortunately, tomorrow because I have another meeting, but I'm sure that with our chair of the Energy Working Group, with Karin, our director, and our team here, you will be very well served with coordination of those matters. So I will stop here for the opening session, and I would like to thank you once more for coming, our hosts in particular, and our speakers in the opening session. And I would like to ask for an applause for your interventions in particular. Thank you. So I would like to conclude the opening now and start directly with the first session. And also, as our chair of the working group is not here, I will moderate that session. And the next one will be moderated by my colleague Karen. So I will keep here just a few minutes more to introduce this session. As I was saying, port resilience is very important for us, for our regions. Port resilience is about safeguarding European economic interests and independence, for instance, from Chinese investment and influence on our European ports. That's an important thing, but also it is a matter that deals with port security and military security too. That is very important, actually. So the work on, among other things, flag states and port states control as part of the maritime safety package is very important. It's crucial. And of course, as many of you know, many ports in Europe and in our regions are also used for NATO equipment as well. So this is a very important matter. Here in Greece, I think was mentioned before, Alexandropoli also is very, very important for these reasons. And then apart, on top of all this, we have the environmental climate resilience is also a critical dimension for resilience in ports. And of course, ports face various climate-related risks, such as rising sea levels, extreme weather events that was mentioned also by George Alexakis. And there are environmental regulations also, of course, that apply to pollution, for instance, in ports. So this port resilience concept is a bit holistic and combines environmental, economic, security factors together to ensure, indeed, long-term operational stability and sustainability in ports. So one of the key questions I think we are asking ourselves today is precisely a bit looking at the post-COVID crisis, looking at the war in Ukraine, and in relation to the current energy and environmental challenges and dual use, for instance, as well also at the growing, as I was saying, foreign influences like China. How should the resilience of our CPMR ports be improved? So according, of course, to the different stakeholders that we have here today. And also in relation, for instance, to the European Union forthcoming port strategy, will this encompass both elements of ports and energy transition as well as more resilient ports in general? These are questions that we are asking ourselves, and I think we should try to start giving responses to combine our thoughts to produce powerful lobbying messages for the future. So to better introduce this topic, we count today on a couple of interventions that are very relevant. We have a video message. The first is from Tom Berenson, member of the European Parliament from the Trunk Committee, that I would like to ask my colleagues and the host to put on the screen if it's possible. And also we will have, while they charge it, we will have also an online intervention from Isabel Rickpost, Secretary General of the European Seaport Organization, ESPO, that should be also connected online. So I am looking to my colleagues to see if we can have that on the screen. Okay, Isabel Rickpost then, whenever she wants to intervene, if she's connected and can hear us. Can you hear us, Isabel? Oh, very well. We can see you. We cannot hear you for now, but we can see you.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Now we can hear you. So the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for this kind invitation. Thank you, everyone in Crete. I would have loved to be amongst you, but as you know, and Karin, your director, we have our own annual dinner and event tomorrow. So it was very difficult for us to I'm not sure if the connection is fine now.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes. So it was impossible for me to travel now to Crete, but I would love to. We have very good connections with Crete, with the port of Heraklion, with Minas, our friends. So yeah, it would have been a pleasure. But in the 10 minutes that I would like to share some ideas or some reflections with you, I've listened to the first part. I couldn't understand all the things, but I think indeed resilience is like a new buzzword, but I think we should take resilience in the broad sense. And how can we strengthen the resilience of the ports? I think we have climate resilience, but we also have geopolitical resilience, and I think we also have geo-economic resilience. And said that, I think the best way to be resilient for ports is, and for Europe, is to have resilient ports, competitive ports, a state-of-the-art ports, and that Europe and European policy is recognizing the important role of ports and the critical role of ports, the strategic role of ports. And we believe that there is quite some things to do to enhance that. There are quite some, the first thing, of course, we have made a study in spring, that was finished in spring and published in spring, that is looking at what are the investment needs of European ports. And the conclusion is that for the next 10 years, there are 80 billion euros investment needs for European ports. This includes investment needs where where the port managing body has at least a stake in the investment, which means that the pure private investments in the port are excluded. Also maintenance costs, and we know that with climate change and, for instance, what we see now, and we regret very much in Valencia, is that with climate change, the maintenance costs are also going up very steeply. So that we see there are big investment needs, and what worries us at the moment is that we hear from some Commission plans to limit and change the existing Connecting Europe facility to work, and it's also in the priorities of Mrs. von der Leyen, also in the Draghi report, whereas we very much like a lot of things that are in the Draghi report, but we also read that they want to limit the number of European programs and work towards more projects and priority-based. This is fine in a way, but what we see is that member states would get like a portfolio, like with the recovery fund, and in that from that portfolio, they would then finance transport investments, social investments, investments for migration policy, investments for agriculture, etc. Of course, these investments would go with certain priorities, and they would also be linked to reforms of the country. But this means that the Connecting Europe facility would, I say would, because it's also based on leaked documents that we have seen, that the Connecting Europe facility would be to a large extent reduced. So the specific transport funding instrument would be reduced, and so it would be that the transport investment and also the sport investment would then be financed through this single plan of the member states. But this can be dangerous because then you would have different member states having different priorities, you can have an unlevel playing field between the member states. They would also connect the financing of your transport investments could be connected to the reform obligations that the member states have, maybe in another field where the port doesn't have any competence. So, I mean, you know, if you have a social reform or what have you, and the port is not having any competence on improving it or on doing the reform, your financing could be blocked because of that. So, and we think, so that's one side. The other side, what we think is your transport is really the backbone, and trans-European networks are the backbone from the internal market. And this is certainly very important for maritime regions, for island regions. If we do not ensure this connectivity, if we do not have like a same connectivity, same quality all over the European network, you will have bottlenecks in one country that stop the success of another country. You could have the mainland and the islands, you know, where you have like an absence of a good link on the mainland, we will block you as an island. So this being said, we really hope that we can count on the new Transport Commissioner to plead for this specific and a strong transport portfolio within the current, within the future MFF, the multi-annual financial framework. Because, and this is linked to the content in a way, it's true that ports have to play more and more a wide role, not only as transport hub and being the lifelines of the internal market and of the life links to islands and more remote places in Europe, and really strongholders for cohesion policy, but they are also hubs of energy. They are also asked to play an important role in military preparedness, in resilience. So this is all roles that come on top of their traditional roles. It's roles which do not always come with a business case. They have to facilitate the greening of shipping, for instance. This is to facilitate and to help the shipping sector, but it's not that the gains as such, or that there will be a business case for the port as does. So it's very important that we can count on these investments, on this transport funding, and we really hope that this we get this support and the plans, that we misunderstood what has been leaked, and that there is still a strong transport funding instrument. The second thing is that for the new Commission, we see that competitiveness is very much coming on the forefront. If we read the priorities of Mrs. von der Leyen, who says that on implementing the Fit for 55 measures, there needs to be pragmatism, technology neutrality. She's also saying, you know, that there is a strong plea now, also from Mr. Draghi in his report, to combine decarbonization with competitiveness. This sounds like music in the ears. Also, the message of Mrs. von der Leyen to reduce the bureaucracy, to reduce the reporting obligation. It all sounds very positive, but at the same time, we have the Fit for 55 that is there. We have the ETS maritime that is there, with as you know, the first signs, and more than first signs, of carbon leakage and business leakage. So what we see is that in the previous period, the legislation has not has been ignoring this competitiveness point, and that we see that the shipping sector are taking this how would I say, loophole in the legislation, and are rerouting, are taking other routes, other connections, and thus trying to avoid calling at a European port if they don't have to. So we see it, of course, we have the Red Sea crisis that blurs a bit the impact of the ETS. So the first study that the Commission has commissioned on the impact of the ETS says that there is not a big impact. We think that you cannot do this, conclude on an analysis just on a few months measuring the impact. It's far too premature, and it's blurred by the Red Sea. We see that there will be, we look at the investments that are building up. We even look at just the press messages about recently still about an investment in the Moroccan port of Nador that is being planned. So we see that there is carbon and business leakage being prepared. We see also what we didn't expect that much, that there is also carbon leakage on the northern part going to UK ports instead of or later than to Rotterdam, Antwerp, etc., which means that they are not avoiding that the traffic will also go to Rotterdam and to Antwerp, etc., but they first will go to, for instance, Felixstowe, and then come to Rotterdam, which means 2 days longer voyages, which means no gains in CO2, and which means that, it's not good as well for European ports that they have to wait 2 days longer for getting the coal in their ports. So this is very important. And as I understand you discussed as well, or you mentioned as well, the upcoming port strategy. So this is, of course, this will be very important for European ports. Did we ask for a port strategy? No, we didn't. Of course, we want the Commission and Europe to develop a strategy for ports, and I mean it just in a way of looking at ports as strongholders of Europe's economy and society, to look at competitiveness of European ports, to understand the wide role of ports and the needs of ports. But if we therefore we would like that Europe sees that in all their policy areas, not only in transport policy. But do we need a specific strategy for that? If that would be the content of the strategy, we are very much in favor. So we hope that now and because we expect that the strategy will be a communication, we hope that in this communication, and we, of course, as ESPO, will do our best to speak to the Commission and try to explain our needs, try to explain what should be, how ports should be considered in the next 5 years in all the policy areas, and then we hope that this might be reflected in the communication. What we are a bit afraid of, that it will come also with quite some legislative proposals, that it becomes like a Christmas tree trying to solve things by legislation, which in fact cannot be solved by legislation. So that is a bit what we have to look at. Just to end with, we are, of course, at the beginning of a new legislative period. We had yesterday the hearing with Mr. Tzitzikostas. I think that there are the first signs, and also what I hear of people who have met with Mr. Tzitzikostas are good signs. We are very much hopeful that we have a good collaboration with the Commissioner for Transport in the next 5 years. We also see that the Transport Committee in the Parliament is chaired by a Greek MEP, Mrs. Rosenberg. I mean, at least we are in the hands, let's say, of a maritime country, a country which has also important ports, who has also, and this is, I think, for CPMR very important, who has the issues of connection with islands, of connectivity, of cohesion is very important for Greece. So I think with these people in the lead, in a way, I hope we can go for successful policy in the next years. But we have a good collaboration, ESPO and CPMR. So I'm really looking forward to strengthen our cooperation, to help each other, and I hope you can help us also in our messages when we try to cooperate and contribute to having a strong port strategy, and strong, it means strong in messages, but not in nitty-gritty legislation, reporting obligations, and things that doesn't help the competitiveness, but is harming it. So I will leave it here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Isabel. It's always a pleasure listening to your very, very insightful thoughts. I would like to thank you in particular for having explained all the risks and opportunities that are on the table. Indeed, a few months ago, we were joining efforts for this campaign on the future CEF3. We will surely keep strengthening our forces and developing synergies with your organization. So thank you very much for your contribution to our debate today. Now we should have the video from Tom Berendsen, former TRAN MEP.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tom Berendsen, member of the European Parliament, and in the previous mandate I was the rapporteur on the European Port Strategy. As you know, the hearings for the incoming Commission have started this week, and therefore I am unable to be with you in person. However, I'm very grateful to CPMR and Madam Karen Smit-Jacobs in particular for this opportunity to address you from Brussels. Because the topic you will be discussing shortly is a very important one, not just to me, but to Europe as a whole. Improving the resilience of our European ports is a crucial challenge to make sure Europe stays competitive, prosperous and safe. As you are representatives of maritime regions, I won't have to explain to you the massive importance of our ports to our economy and the crucial role they play in our supply chains. At the same time, we are at the beginning, only at the beginning, of a real political discussion about the strategic importance of our ports and the urgency of protecting them against unwanted influence from abroad. With the changing geopolitical situation in the world and the energy transition, ports are facing massive challenges. How do they remain competitive in the global economy without having to sell out or to be sold to the highest, often third country bidder? To answer this question and to address these challenges, a strong majority in the European Parliament has asked the European Commission to come forward with a comprehensive European port strategy. It has to be European to make sure that competition between European ports does not lead to a race to the bottom when it comes to our collective security or social and environmental standards. And it has to be comprehensive because the challenges facing our ports are as diverse as our ports themselves. Some ports have a strong Chinese presence that poses risks to our economic security and independence. Other ports feel strong competition from ports outside the European Union that do not have to comply with the same European rules. And all ports have to find their way in the energy transition and the global economy of tomorrow, as ports are crucial energy hubs of the future. I am very pleased to see that President Ursula von der Leyen has integrated this comprehensive European port strategy into her political guidelines and into the mission letters for the incoming Transport Commissioner, Mr. Tzitzikostas. This is a very hopeful sign, and I trust that he and his colleagues in the European Commission will make this strategy a reality. From our side in the European Parliament, we are very much looking forward to work with the Commission and all stakeholders to protect and support our ports. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to call on you and your experience in every corner of the European Union to help us strengthen our ports. Please reach out to me and my colleagues in the European Parliament to share your examples and experiences and to make sure that this upcoming European port strategy will be as comprehensive as possible and to ensure that it works for all regions and all member states involved. Thank you very much for your attention, and I wish you a very fruitful discussion. Good morning.
Very well. Now I think the framework is very well set after all those interventions. And it's time to turn our minds and our ears to regional and local stakeholders. So the first one in the panel comes from Crete. and is coming from Roganese, CEO, is Antonis Mtatis, if I pronounce it well. So I would like to invite you here. Yes, so if you can join me here, I think we will have a very interesting presentation on the resilience of the port of Heraklion. Here.
Okay, yeah. Thank you very much.
We'd like to ask the technician to put up the slide presentation. Good morning.
For this very important workshop. I will switch it to Greek as we have discussed with Mr. Alexakis, so my presentation will be in Greek.
This is a tremendous, the circumstances are tremendous. We have the Valencia catastrophe and an effect of the climate change. We have to deal with natural phenomena we weren't expecting with extreme weather conditions. In Greece, most recently, 1 year ago, there was a similar case in Thessalia. And what happened there was something similar to Valencia. Within a couple of hours, tremendous volume of rainfall happened. Within 2 and 3 years' time, volume was within 8 hours. And this affected a very significant port of the region. I'm saying that introductorily until the presentation is loaded. And I'm referring to the port of Volos. The port of Volos was not faced with any distraction, you know, as we understand it, that a pier or a quay would fall or any other structural failures. That wasn't the case. Nevertheless, within 10 hours, and considering another storm 20 days ago, 1 million of soils were dragged along to the port basin. This is a total distraction and non-operation of the port. 1 million cubic meters. Soils that the port weren't faced with within 50 years. And this is what we are afraid of. This will happen to many ports because of the extremity of weather conditions. Let's look at the specific project we were awarded by the European Investment Bank. As you know, the EIB and EBRD provide for in their statutes that activities should be funded to tackle climate change. You have an overview of the project. The project was a six-month project. The Port Authority of Heraklion, Mr. Papadakis and his team have been very helpful to us. Was the project owner. Our company was tasked with the preparation of the assignment. And essentially, it was associated with many aspects. We should determine current and future climatic risks and the impact on infrastructure, multifaceted impact, as well as what measures, soft or hard measures, should be taken to tackle these risks. What is a port faced with? This increasing sea level. An increasing sea level is something different from what we know to 30 years later that a half a meter increase might come along. 45 centimeters increase. Well, what's the big deal? You might wonder. Well, there is tremendous difference. Coastal flooding. The nature has demonstrated that in the most profound way. Before Volos, the Volos problem, we were considering, you know, some measures to tackle this, using sand barriers to tackle these problem. But you know, these problems cannot be addressed this way anymore. You know that from Crete as well. And wave frequency. Wave frequencies are very powerful through the data we have, the 50-year data, and more than 1,000 data sets. We see great damage to ports that are not equivalent to the planning. Let's look at Ikaria, a Greek island, and the port in Evilos that was well structured, well designed, taking into consideration wave effects. Within 8 hours, a downwind pier was destructed. And if you look at the photos, these are the greatest damages we've seen because of the wave energy it was hit with. I'm saying this in order to have a broader idea of the subject matter. Substantial damages, substantial destruction in Greece and abroad to port infrastructure. In the scope of this project, we address 2 deliverables. The first one, the baseline assessment, where we had to actually look into how currently the climate at the seaport is, what are the historical trends, taking into consideration history, how the climate evolves, and then take some projections into consideration. The European Copernicus project and the database of Copernicus play a substantial role here. They have developed advanced tools that can help us in doing that analysis, and then identify the attributes, the structural and functional attributes of the infrastructure of the port of Heraklion. And then we had to look into the vulnerability analysis and the risks, of course. So vulnerability analysis, measures that need to be taken in order to address the damage caused, and the so-called scenario. And then a follow-up plan. The follow-up plan, and let me talk a little bit more about that, becomes an even greater challenge, not just for Greece, but worldwide. We're running a substantial project for the port of Dublin. Ireland has similar characteristics as Crete. It is infrastructure, the geological attributes, 4% to the GDP of Ireland, and an entry point to the country. Similar to Heraklion, which is the entry point to Crete. There is Suda, of course, but Heraklion is the main port. The source of information, of course, Copernicus, meteorological data, research that has been done. I won't want to delve into detail. We can discuss it further on. To those that are not familiar with the port of Heraklion, Heraklion is where waves come from the north. The downwind pier, the downwind quay, and the bypass, as the Cretans call it, is 2.5 kilometers, and we call it bypass because all heart doctors, Mr. Alexakis, suggest to their patients to walk there, you know, for 5 kilometers, come and go. This pier protects the port against waves. If you would be willing to understand the port infrastructure further on, there is the old Venetian castle. It's a landmark for the city of Heraklion, and the port basin is in the port basin. There are yachts and ship vessels. You have Pier 1 and Pier 2. And then we move on to the freight, the commercial part, Pier 3, 4 mainly, and Pier 5. If you visit that, it combines a freight, commercial, and shipbuilding activities. Let's move forward to the stages about the project methodology. When you start planning such a project, you have to look into the timeline. It is very important to decide what we're talking about, 30, 40, 70 years. Within this project, our target year is 2100. And the reason for that is that historically speaking, port infrastructure are 100 years old. Infrastructure is being upgraded, but it is an infrastructure that is built once, and then you renovate, you upgrade it, but the infrastructure, the main infrastructure is there. The infrastructure of the port dates back to the Middle Ages, and at the same location where it is now. Therefore, you see that there's the Venetian castle as well. Within our project, that was 70 years of projection. We identified infrastructure and who is competent for that, as well as who is responsible both for their operation and maintenance. Take, for example, the break wall at -15 and a crest at 3 meters, and the port manager is responsible for that. This is a standard template, regardless of the port where it is implemented. Typical operational thresholds. So let's look at that. What is an operational threshold? Imagine that a ship moors and waves of over 1 meter come in. Can the ship operate? No, you cannot handle it. The buffers might be able to help, the break wall might help, but operation should stop. These thresholds are identified in the worldwide literature, but within the port of Heraklion, we were able to talk to stakeholders and the directors of the various directions and divisions. Waves are a factor to operation, and wind is also significant for operation. When you have cranes and you have to unload container ships, there are thresholds after which and from which you have to shut down operation. And because of strong rainfall, visibility is less than 500 meters, which actually does not allow ships to navigate through the port. This is a standard diagram implementing such analysis. Skimming through the infrastructure of a port, you can identify the climatic parameters affecting it and what the impact might be in in case something goes wrong. Imagine the downwind break wall being confronted with an extreme weather event that leads to a failure. Supposedly, 40, 60 meters of the break wall collapses. We have never experienced it, and I see Minas looking at me afraid. But anyway, we have been confronted with failures to the tetrapods, which of course we intervene and deal with it. Those who have regarded the Evdilos example at Ikaria, this was a distraction. What would that mean for the port of Heraklion? What would that mean for Crete? Just imagine. Now, I don't want to burden you with scientific information. We enter into deeper water with wave highs, the wave frequencies, as well as temperature and rainfall. Perhaps an important aspect I would like to stress in the case of the port of Heraklion are the two rivers, Silamianos. If you go to Pier 4 and 5, you can see the river ending there, and the river of Mesambelias. The river of Mesalianos can provide 8,500 cubic meters per year, and after an edge of rainfall, Mr. Alexakis, you might have experienced that during your time at the port of Heraklion. You can remember that there were wood elements in the port basing. Therefore, rivers ending in ports are a potential source of problems for the port, especially in the sense of the climate change we are confronted with. First and foremost, we have to look at the climate change scenarios. No engineer usually analyzes such scenarios. Such scenarios are actually developed by the IPCC every 7 years, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. Based on the emissions, they determine the increase in temperature. Copernicus involves data on rainfall, on wave energy, and based on the models of 2014. And then 2023, the SSP models, which have not been downscaled so far. What does downscaling means? A climate change model means for the target year 2100 in terms of waves, whereas Copernicus provides data for RCPs for the period 2041-2070, as well as 2071 to 2100. The most important source for the scientific community and engineers currently in Europe, engineers that are port researchers and design ports, so the base data come from Copernicus as to wave parameters, temperatures, rainfall, etc. Based on that, and applying advanced wave models, because, you know, Copernicus cannot evaluate the wave right outside the port of Heraklion, but rather 6 kilometers away from it. But it's a very good piece of information. Applying a mathematical model, you can project that to the port of Heraklion, and you will be able to see how it affects the downwind breakwater, as well as what comes into the port basin. We're not interested just in the distraction, but also in the downtime of the port. Running all this analysis and projecting waves, running different scenarios, we look into the downwind breakwater overriding of waves. You might have regarded that, you might have experienced that in the downwind breakwater here in Heraklion. Some days you're not even able to walk there because of the overriding, of the wave overriding. After this analysis, you end up to vulnerability assessment areas. On this table, you can see different waves. Let's look at the example without climate change. HSS is 3.17. With climate change, 3.47. I'm talking about the last scenario here. And the peak time from 9:13 to 9:14. These are adverse factors for planning outward and the outer port structures. We diversify the port infrastructure. We have snapshots of the mathematical models, and again, the mathematical models for restoration times. And this is the first map. There you go. It shows areas where there is risk for the port of Heraklion. I'm not talking about the breakwater here. On Pier 3, the eastern side will be confronted with certain problems, operational or constructional problems. We have already talked about those. This map allows us to plan any measures needed. Here you can have a very good overview of what climate change means. Tetraports are 6.3 cubic meters strong. In testing analysis and with conventional means and based on the regulations and guidelines in place, 8 cubic meter tetraports have been suggested. Taking climate change into consideration, we need 12.5 cubic meter tetraports. What does it mean in cost? 30% increase in cost compared to a conventional structure based on current data. If a project costs 10 million euros, while considering climate change in our planning, and of course considering a certain loss, as Mr. Alexakis rightly said, on their true perspective, projects would end up being pharaonic projects that cannot be funded. This is the challenge for the engineers at EU and world level as well as worldwide to find the golden mean. When a tremendous phenomenon comes, we might have failures, but the infrastructure should be there. You can see how the cost of a specific protection arrangement against waves looks, that is used throughout Europe in ports. Let's look at the measures. Well, there are physical measures, there's hard measures, so to speak, to enhance, to protect the upwind breakwater. As the Silamianos River, you have to put in place certain barriers to isolate the sediment coming into the basin. It is different if you have to dig some square meters instead of the whole port basin. If it was the case in Volos, we would have saved infrastructure. Then there are soft measures related to the port, namely staff training in being able to manage extreme weather condition, not just fire, but also extreme waves, extreme rainfall, extreme temperatures, and of course institutional measures where the region has a very significant role to play. In the case of Crete, there are specific plans, and when the project was introduced, the responsible, competent persons of the firefighting service have presented such projects and such measures, and of course training should take place and exercises. What is also important is monitoring. Apart from the rainfall data, we do not have wave data. We don't have streams of waves being monitored, and also systems, early warning systems against extreme weather conditions, apart from the number 112, that is an emergency telephone service number that provides messages to the population in case of extremities. Based on a case-by-case scenario, should we be able to address and propose measures.
Thank you very much. This presentation, the presentation of this study, was in order to see what exactly means, what is a resilient study. Because we've been hearing a lot of this terminology, although we're not everybody's engineer or port experts. In order to understand your rationale, it's very important that representatives from the regions to understand which is the content of such a study and the outcome of the study. Thank you very much. Next speaker is Mr. John Harvard Ade. He's an advisor.
For this really interesting intervention. We have a slight change of plans because the speaker from Georgia, the Maritime Transport Agency of Georgia, couldn't stay with us because he had another commitment due to the delay that we have accumulated a bit on the agenda. So, but will join us in a future event for sure. As we have, I think, the commission waiting for us also online, we agreed, I think, right with the last speaker of the panel, John Alvard, from Agder region in Norway, to postpone his intervention in the next session. So I'm just kindly asking my colleague Karin if we are supposed now to give the floor to the Commission, or we wait. Okay, very good. Thank you so much, and thank you for all the interventions so far. Karin.
Yeah, thank you, David. Thank you to the Greek hosts for a very warm welcome yesterday evening already here in Crete. So many thanks to George and also the colleagues here in Crete. My third time here, twice as a Dutch tourist, but now for work. So happy to be here. I will keep it very short because I planned a bit longer introduction, but we have the European Commission waiting online, DG Move, to guide us through the revision of TEN-T and, of course, well, the consequences and implementation issues also for CPMR. But just to embark on maybe the last, very shortly on the last speakers, we all know that for this session, ports and energy security, energy resilience, decarbonization, as explained already by the former speakers, our ports play a super important role. If you only look at CO2 emissions at berth in ports, and that's for the European Economic Area, we look at 6-7% of the total, so that's huge. We also stand for a huge challenge on implementing the Fit for 55 package. The concerns around the ETS were already mentioned by Isabel, with severe consequences also for our ports, European ports. And also, as Tom Berendsen said, of course, we are going to provide input from CPMR for the new port strategy, also on the basis of the results of this 2 days seminar here in Crete. So let's really, I will keep it a bit shorter than planned, but because we have the honor to have Sophie Trampf from DG Move here online, and she will guide us through, again, the TEN-T, revised TEN-T. So happy to pass the floor on to her, and we will talk a bit more in detail on the revision of TEN-T in the working group, which follows this session. Thank you very much. Sophie, Ms. Trampf, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Apparently he's not online. She's not online?
It's not online now?
No.
Can we check? Can we phone, maybe Anne Lezin can phone her again to say? I don't know what happened, she was just online. Yeah.
So
maybe in the meantime, because we, well, bypassed John, but let's see if it will take a couple of minutes more because she was just online. Then it's still your session, John, but let's see. Okay, we will try to reconnect with DG Move, and then, yeah, maybe you introduce John still
indeed,
for session one.
Course.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, okay, thank you, Karin. These are some unforeseen circumstances, you know, it can happen. So, yes, our next speaker then is John Alvard from Agder region in Norway. He is, I must say, a pillar of our activities in the North Sea, in the North Sea Commission in particular. So, John, the floor is yours.
Thank you.
We will reconnect, of course, with the subject of resilience of ports with his intervention.
Yeah, thank you very much, David, for this kind introduction. As you said, my name is Jon Halvard Aude from the Agder region in the south of Norway. Also advisor of the North Sea Commission Transport Group. MEP Tom Berendsen and Isabel Rickpost have in their speeches really highlighted why maritime ports are pivotal for port resilience and also strategic autonomy and military security. I've also provided an overview of the different hazards and risks which are facing ports and how the SAFE 3 is very important in this respect. And I will take the opportunity to support their views. So the North Sea region is an important transport hub in Europe, very vital for competitiveness and trade, and also hosts two very big ports like Rotterdam, Antwerp, and Zeebrugge, and Hamburg. There are also many ports in the comprehensive network. They are smaller, more medium-sized, and are also more vulnerable to risks and hazards which could undermine their resilience. Yeah, so the maritime ports in the North Sea region obviously play an important role for safeguarding resilience. But then it's very important that the ports are able to improve their resilience themselves, and that European funding instruments like CEF, for instance, is able to support this. Yeah, so today the challenges facing the resilience of North Sea ports are complex and multifaceted. As we heard from Mr. Putatis, climate change poses a significant threat, but also geopolitical tensions with the wars in Ukraine, Gaza and Lebanon, and international trade conflicts, economic fluctuations and technological disruptions like cyber attacks are also important. Yeah, so many ports in the North Sea regions are also exposed to climate-related risks and hazards. And ports also in the North Sea region must adapt to rising sea levels and more severe storms. So this requires substantial investments in infrastructure, such as higher seawalls, advanced drainage systems, and resilient buildings. As an example of this, I take the opportunity to mention that the Port of Rotterdam has implemented a comprehensive climate adaptation strategy that includes raising barriers, enhancing bank structures, and spatial adaptation to prepare sites and assets for future challenges. And also technology plays a crucial role in enhancing resilience. So the adaptation of port technologies such as Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, and blockchain can improve efficiency, security, and adaptability of the ports. So these technologies enable real-time monitoring and predictive maintenance, also reducing downtime and enhancing operational resilience. So the Port of Antwerp has invested heavily in digitalization to enhance its resilience. By implementing a port community system, it has improved the exchange of information between key port users, such as shipping lines, terminal operators, and cargo owners. Safeguarding economic resilience is also very important in this respect. So the ports must diversify their activities to reduce the dependency on a single industry or a single trade route. These also include expanding into logistics, manufacturing, and renewable energy sectors. The Port of Gothenburg in Sweden has focused on diversifying its activities. In this way, it has expanded into logistics and renewable energy, creating multiple revenue streams. So this diversification helps buffer against economic shocks and ensure that the port remains robust in the face of changing market conditions. The Port of Esbjerg in Denmark is a leader in offshore wind energy, which contributes greatly to its resilience. So by becoming a hub for the installation and maintenance of offshore wind farms, the port has diversified its activities and created a sustainable revenue stream. So this focus on renewable energy also aligns with the global efforts to reduce carbon emissions. And in the next session, we will of course hear much more about the roles of ports as energy hubs. David also mentioned the challenge of, what should I say, unwanted external interference with ports. And there I would like to mention that all the main freight ports in Aberdeenshire in Scotland, such as Aberdeen, Peterborough and Fraserburgh, are so-called trust ports. So that's a structure which has its own special individual legal ownership, where the port essentially owns itself, and there are no shares that can be bought by outside bodies. And resilience is not just about infrastructure and technologies, of course also about people. So ports must invest in their workforce, providing training and development to ensure that they have sufficient access to qualified labor. I can here mention that regional authorities, cities and maritime centers in Antwerp, Weser-Ems in northern Germany and Brest in France are planning to cooperate in intra-Europe by exchanging experiences and transfer good practices on how to attract more women to maritime professions, also including ports. So it's then important to engage with local communities and industry stakeholders. Yeah. I have in my speech provided some examples on how port can enhance the resilience through infrastructure improvements to protecting on climate change, technological advancements, economic diversification, and also measures for protection against unwanted foreign influence, as well as education and training. To conclude, resilience also for North Sea ports is a very multifaceted challenge that requires a holistic approach. I've already learned a lot by listening to the previous interventions, and also looking forward to the next session. So by this, I conclude my speech. So thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, John. I would like to open the floor if anyone in the room wants to take it, to intervene. Or maybe you want all to go to have a coffee. I see from your faces. I think we are a bit delayed in the schedule, so maybe we save the debate for the next session. So I would like just to shortly wrap up on what we have just heard. I think it was a first interesting session. There are many challenges dealing, of course, with port resilience related to environment, climate, energy, but also to economic matters, competitiveness, security, geopolitical risks and context, technology, training, as we have just heard also from John. But then we have also important needs in the regions, in the ports, investment needs in particular. Then we have also opportunities. That's also important to say, associated to risks, of course, but we have potential new policies, regulations, but also we have new strategies as the EU port strategy for coming. We have, of course, the future CEF3 and so on and so forth. And then we have also very interesting experiences to learn from in the regions and in the ports that are in our organization. So we will keep indeed building on all of this to shape our reflections for advocacy action. And I'm sure also that in the next session we will liaise with all of these thoughts also more from the energy perspective. So I would like to conclude here also by thanking all the speakers and all of you for your attention. And we will go now to the coffee break. That will be a bit shorter than planned. 10 minutes, right?
Okay, let's say a quarter.
A quarter, okay. Quarter of hours for a coffee. Thank you very much. investigating also beyond Europe. It can help our case. So yeah, maybe we can share just comments. Yeah, and maybe I was thinking.
Yeah, definitely. So, and also with our chair. So, yeah. Hello. Good. You sit next to me. Yeah. You want to sit next to me now? No, you change. Better, I want to sit. No, I want to sit next to Fernando. Karen Jacobs, have a seat. Netherlands. Well, I grew up in Germany, but then in Limburg, so like Maastricht, and so my son is also studying now in Maastricht. The south, we're all Catholic there.
Have you ever been nursing in Maastricht? It was a big lab development, huge development, great work. It was an old, let's say, avenue, and now it's a place to play.
It's true. It's fantastic, isn't it? Yeah, it's the most southern city in Holland. It's really still bourgeois. It's still,
yes. That's famous.
We like it. We like it. Yeah. Okay. Can I please ask people to take their seats so we could start session 2 for today, please? I'm still waiting for Josera for the panel to join. Or is he not? Oh no, Josera's in the next one, sorry. We're almost complete then. Okay, but without further ado, let me start this panel session, session 2 as said. The focus will be on TEN-T, the revised TEN-T and ports as energy hubs. I will skip, the short moderation I did because I just did it before the coffee break, since we don't want to keep waiting further. The European Commission, DG Move, so Sophie Trampf. I'm happy to announce she is back online now. We change mic. Sorry, change of microphone. I want to introduce Sophie Trampf. So the floor is yours, and thanks for your patience. We were a bit delayed in the morning sessions, but happy to have you and welcome you here now at Crete. You're on screen, and I hope we can hear you as well.
Good morning. I can hear you. I hope you can also hear me.
Yes, we can hear you. Maybe everybody use their headphones. I think it will be a bit louder. Thank you. Please, the floor is yours, Sophie. So very much welcome from our side here, from the panel and the Greek authorities here. So please, you can start. Thank you.
Thanks a lot for the invitation. I would have loved to join you in probably more sunny Crete, but hello from grey Brussels. First of all, I have to apologize for my head of unit, Philippe Chantraine, who was supposed to speak to you this morning. But in the Commission, it's transition times. As you know, things are hectic and unplanned things are happening. So he had to travel. But I'm happy to replace him. I work with Philippe Chantraine and the unit of transport investments, so basically the Connecting Europe facility and the future of transport investments. And I will also quickly touch upon that. I understand you don't want big, long presentations, so I just prepared 2 slides, which I hope might turn up, but I can already start start without them. The first slide would show our TEN-T corridors, so the map of the TEN-T corridors after the revision of the regulation that just entered into force in April. And if you see the map, you would see that ports play an important role. The corridors usually start at the port and they go until another port on the other side of Europe.
Sorry to interrupt. We cannot
Yes.
see the first slide yet. I'm looking at the technicians. If we could project the first slide.
Yes, I can wait.
Yeah.
Because they should have them available.
2 seconds. We are looking into it.
No worries.
I don't know, Marie-Lie or Guillermo, we can have the first slide. Guillaume?
I see something's happening. Perfect. You can just go to the second one where you would see the map. Voila. Thanks a lot. So I carry on. That's okay. So as I just said, you see that these corridors are mainly connecting ports and different sides of Europe. All in all, after the TEN-T revision, we have 327 TEN-T ports, and this represents mainly the core network. So here we have 97 ports, still a lot. And you probably also remember that the revision of the TEN-T regulation should take into account new developments. But when the Commission proposal was published, this was still before the Russian invasion of Ukraine. So energy ports were not on the radar yet. And only during negotiations with co-legislators, and also there was then a little revised proposal, this concept of energy ports has been introduced in the TEN-T regulation. And now you will find it there quite prominently in a couple of places. And the regulation recognizes that ports not only, as we always knew, have an important network effect, that they are cross-border multimodal nodes, they are transport hubs, they are gateways for trades, they are industrial clusters, they are important for military mobility, but they also play an important role in the diversification of energy supplies and also for the rollout of renewable energies. That they contribute via offshore wind installations, for example. They play a role in the production of green hydrogen, and they transport and store LNG, for example. And that the synergies between transport and energies need to be strengthened in the future. So also the methodology to include ports on the TEN-T network has been adapted to these new energy hubs, ports as energy hubs, and the current criteria for a port to be part of the TEN-T comprehensive network is, they are the criteria we knew already before, but in the context of the energy hub, the port needs to have a cargo volume of more than 500,000 tons. and it needs to contribute to the diversification of energy supplies and the rollout of renewable energies. And this needs to be one of the main activities of the port. So this is the little journey the TEN-T regulation did to include this new concept. And we can go to the next slide, because this will show you more the financing side, the Connecting Europe facility indeed, because the current Connecting Europe facility also has this synergy element between transport and energy. We call it synergetic elements, but it is a bit restricted, and we see that it's not completely adapted to ports as energy hubs, because in the current CEF2 for transport, you can also include energy elements, but only up to 20% of the eligible costs of one project. So voilà, it's a bit limited. In general, on CEF2, you see from the slide that the program is already well advanced. You will see the big blue part of the circle is all the money already allocated to projects. We had 3 calls. The program started in 2021. There was a call in 21, in 22, and 23, where most of the budget, 84%, has been allocated, which is 21 billion approximately. We have a current call running, which started in September, which is the green part of the circle. About 10% of the budget still left, 2.5 billion, which is mainly for the cohesion countries, because it's the cohesion envelope. But there's also still some money also for ports and the European maritime space in that call. And after the closure of that call, we will just have the little yellow part, 6%, still available of the Connecting Europe facility. It's basically remaining funds for the alternative fuels infrastructure facility, which is our blending facility in CEF, mainly designed for infrastructure for alternative fuels. So for ports, it's offshore energy supply, OPS and things like that, infrastructure linked to renewable energy. So you see, CEF budget is mostly consumed. We had little hopes beginning of the year when there was the midterm revision of the current MFF that we might get some fresh money for the Connecting Europe facility. In the end, we are happy that there were no cuts, because things were very difficult amongst member states. Fresh money was only given for Ukraine, basically, and CEF didn't get any new funds. So that means we'll have the call now, the current one, and that is it for the rest of the remaining MFF period. There's still the possibility to have what we call the reflow calls. This is linked to a concept that we call use it or lose it. So if some projects are not consuming the money they have been allocated because there are delays, then this money, which is not used, can be re-injected in a so-called reflow call. But this will not be big amounts, because the CEF projects in this period are quite mature, and we don't expect big delays and much money coming back. If we look further, as I say, CEF2 is nearly fully allocated to the new MFF as of 2028. I suppose some of you have seen the discussions. It's too early to say what will happen. And in the mission letter of our commissioner, the new commissioner for transport, Apostolos Tzitzikostas, who successfully passed his hearing yesterday night. You will not read anything about CEF 3, Connecting Europe Facility 3. You can read in the political guidelines of Ursula von der Leyen how she sees the new MFF, which should have a different design than the current one. Should be more policy-based, less instrument-based, which means less instruments, which means simpler architecture, more streamlined, and also designed to leverage more public funding, private funding, obviously, and public funding from member states. So more focused. So for the time being, also for us, it's too early to say what will happen with investment in transport, where they will be in the new MFF structure. You know, the Commission is waiting for guidance. The commissioners need to pass their hearings. The new college needs to be approved. Things need to settle down. And next year we will have a proposal. Next year we hopefully have some more clarity. For the time being, the DGs assess what would be needed for the next MFF, what would be the investment needs in their sectors. And obviously, ports as energy hubs is something that we have on our mind, and it would very nicely also fit with the ambition of the new MFF to be more streamlined, to be have more synergies, to have this combination of transport and energy elements for the ports. But as I said, for the time being, we don't know much. We can't say much. Things need to be decided and cleared at a much higher level. But this will be a discussion and developments which will be interesting to follow in the coming month. Voilà, this was from my side a little introduction. I hear you prefer to have a debate, so thank you, Karin, and I would pass on to the next speaker.
Yes, many thanks, Sophie. Can we have Sophie maybe back on screen so we can still see her? Yeah, there you are, there you are. No, many thanks for the latest insights also from the European Commission regarding, indeed, especially also the budget. We're closely following upon this, and as you know, we have approved at our General Assembly in October the initial position for this one, and as discussed also this morning, we had a joint campaign together also with ESPO in the interest also of our maritime ports, well, to guarantee sufficient funding and budget. No, but good to have your insights and also the cross-links, as you mentioned, TEN-T and also the CEF regarding energy transition and everything what is happening now on diversification of energy, renewable energies, and also, well, the budget available. I think a lot of our maritime ports in CPMR are looking towards, indeed, the 6% for AFIF, I would say. So in order to be able to fulfill our obligations here under the Fit for 55 package, OPS was mentioned by you. Thank you for, well, kicking off this session too. I hope you can stay a bit, indeed, online, because I can imagine that from the members there will be maybe still a couple of questions also for you. So please stay with us if possible. And then there's a slight change in order for this session. I will now pass the floor to Groningen Seaport. That's in the north of the Netherlands. They're quite active on logistics and offshore wind, like we heard also from John, some other ports also in the north. So I hope we can make a connection now with Erik Bertolet, while keeping, of course, Sophie. I hope it's possible.
Yes, now you can hear me.
Erik, ja, we horen je.
Oh, okay.
Ja.
Well, that helps.
En we zien je nu ook. We can see you.
That's good. Good to hear. Good morning.
Yes. The floor is yours, please.
Is somebody capable in bringing up the slides, please?
Yes, if we can project the PowerPoint slides of Erik Bertolet. I'm looking at the technicians in the back.
That would help, of course, to point out our position as an energy port.
Yeah. Hold on to 2 seconds. We are trying to get it on screen. Erik, heb jij die PowerPoint gestuurd?
Ja.
Wanneer was dat? Want kunnen we hem hier niet vinden.
Gisteren. Gisteren is hij nog gestuurd. Toen hebben ze ook nog, ik heb ook een bevestiging gekregen, hoor.
Right. No, it should be well received since yesterday. Yeah.
Yeah.
Guillaume? Yeah, maybe I look at Guillaume. The presentation was received yesterday, so please.
I also got a response from thanks for sharing it, and I checked this morning with Anne if everything was fine. She said, "Yeah, we'll pass it on to the organization."
Yes, we're looking into it. Sorry for the short delay.
Maybe it's hanging in the time gap.
They have located it, so give us 1 minute more. Thank you.
Yeah, there it is. There it is. Well, thanks for the opportunity and sharing something about our energy port. Here you see a picture of the port of Eemshaven. I'm working for Groningen Seaports, the northern part of the Netherlands, as you mentioned already. We have 2 ports. One is Delfzijl, which is an industrial port with in transition to green energy because it was originally fossil-fueled chemistry there. And the other topic there is circular. And in Eemshaven, which is the northernmost northern port and the deepest port, is really an energy port. And therefore, I'm only talking about Eemshaven. And you see a picture which already implements that we are dealing with energy because you don't see any containers. There are some containers or cars or ferries or whatever. No, it's really all in an energy transition. And of course, as I'm working for a port, I say it's no coincidence that port is the middle word of importance. Next, please. Why are we an energy port? You saw the picture of the offshore wind installation, which I will give some more information on in the next slide. But in this slide, you can see there's 8 gigawatts located in Eemshaven. That means that in the eastern part of the port, we have 3 power plants producing energy. The biggest one is RWE, and there's another big one of ENGIE, excuse me. But that's not all, because there's also a lot of cables coming in to Eemshaven. An energy cable from Norway with white electricity, green electricity coming with a cable from Norway, from Denmark. That's coming from Esbjerg area with green electricity. And we're also, as the northern port, we are, let's say, the grid connection from the Gemini wind farm, which is a 600 megawatt Dutch offshore wind farm. And so all the converter stations are also located in Eemshaven. Besides that, you see on the picture that we also have a lot of onshore wind and also onshore solar. For instance, you see at the top of the picture, you see that along the whole dike there are solar panels, and altogether, if everything is online, it's 8 gigawatts coming into the port. So it's really an energy port. But of course, all the energy has also to be transported from the port. It's really a connecting point, and ports play an important role, not only we, in the energy transition with the renewables, especially at sea. Next, please. We're together with Esbjerg, which is, of course, the most experienced port in Denmark. We are sort of runner-up. You see our picture where Eemshaven is located. And there you see the North Sea waters. On the right-hand side, it's the German waters. Left is the Dutch waters. On top is then the Danish waters. And you also see a picture of the UK, because also wind farms from the UK were installed from Eemshaven. We have done 22 projects. To give you an idea, Esbjerg is on 50 projects. So there's always someone bigger. But in the end, you can see the turbines which are supported here from Eemshaven, and also the installed capacity. So 10.2 gigawatts were installed for the offshore wind farm. We also have O&M, so it's not only installation. We're not a production port, because we do not have Siemens, Vestas or GE producing, or the foundations in the port. So everything is coming in and everything is going out. So that's logistics is key. But we have 4 wind farms which are also in operation and maintenance. And I will show you in a few moments that that's also creating a lot of jobs. So in the energy transition, it's not only the security of the energy, but it's also creating a different, let's say, atmosphere in your port with different jobs. Next, please. As we are a hub, it's all logistics, and logistics is key in ports, and ports are getting more distressed because everything is going up in size and weight. Port infrastructure adaptations, which we are doing at the moment, they take a long time. So scaling up in the energy transition is going much faster as ports can follow. Now here you see the 3 wind farms the most recent we did in installation: Hollandse Kust North, Borkum-Riffgrund 3, Godewind 3, and He Dried. The first one is Shell Eneco, and there came components from Cuxhaven and Esbjerg. For the Ørsted project from Borkum-Riffgrund, it came from Aalborg and Lindø near Odense in Denmark. And the third one was He Dried, which is a EMBW wind farm. It came from Nordenham in Germany and Newcastle from the UK. These all are weather windows, and you need a lot of storage. So also as a port, its logistics is key in this, and therefore you need a lot of space. Next, please. But if you have this space, you create also a different, there's a lot of chances in this energy transition, and to be, let's say, also an energy port, as we are considered now also in TEN-T circumstances, as was the adaptation I believe 2 years ago. But we have students in the port because there are new jobs, so you need also new courses. It's supported with the local governments, but also catering and hotels, because we have hotel rooms who are 365 days per year rented out to Siemens or to Vestas or to Van Oort or Kettler or Jan de Nul, all companies supporting in the energy supply chain. There's local transport, so the taxis and buses are going. We have our own bus station and a train station now in Eemshaven. And for instance, you can rent cars. So there's a Hertz point and an Avis point in our port, which is normally only at the airport. And we also have, let's say, for the supply chain, there's a big chance, because we have for every service you need in the offshore wind, we have, let's say, multiple companies supplying it. Here is an example of Collet and Akin renting material for vessels and projects which are run into the port. Next, please. There is next, I hope. Yeah, because we're talking about port is key, because now what we see also in the port is, for instance, that RWE and both RWE and NG are now preparing the road for the hydrogen perspective in order to have batteries and electrolyzers available to do the change. And this is also in port area, because there the energy is coming in. So it's not only the installation, but it's also, I think ports are always the intermediate in this energy transition, because of the scaling up and the renewables at sea, bringing it to the grid, and bringing it further to where is the demand. So I think ports are getting more and more. This is a picture from Wind Europe in Brussels, where we are also part of the offshore wind ports platform, where 40 ports related to the energy transition. That's not only offshore wind. And for instance, there's also ports who are in floating and ports who are entering into the energy transition. We are gathered there and to make, let's say, one voice in order to inform Brussels and also ESPO and other companies, associations, to support the ports in their position in the energy transition. So I hope I was in time.
Yeah, thank you, Erik. Very, very useful insights, and already bridging, let's say, making the link with our tomorrow session on green hydrogen. Indeed, the 2 days are definitely interlinked. I mean, definitely for green hydrogen, there's a huge challenge also for transport, in particular the ports, and for shipping and so on. So, yeah, thank you for this very useful and practical overview. I will pass the floor now right on to other ports, but and then of course we will still have a debate. So please also, Erik, stay tuned if you could. Then it's now. Sorry. Yeah.
I said I will stay for the discussion.
Thank you very much. Okay, without further ado, I pass the floor now to Ekaitz Lopez, CFO for the Port of Bilbao. We had the pleasure to meet already last year in Bilbao, but yeah, still I think a leading example also on energy transition, so the floor is yours, please. We have another. Well, that one is working, I hope. Yeah, let's see.
Hello, good morning everyone, and thank you very much for the invitation. I am Ekaitz Lopez, and I'm presenting today on behalf of Bilbao Port, and we would like to share with you our projects and the progress made so far. And, well, so first, the Port of Bilbao and the community, I think it's moving fast towards the Fit for 55 objectives and towards net zero. We have both private and public investment projects. And as you can see in the slide, first I would like to say that we consider ourselves as an energy hub, and it's in the heart of our strategy to deploy as many alternative fuel services as we can in the port. We want to offer these services to the ship lines, to all the modes of transport, decarbonize the industry, decarbonize the terminals and the equipment. So we want to have as much as alternative fuel bunkering services in our port. So first, we have a private project, a private investment project, which is the Basque Hydrogen Corridor. And the Basque Energy Agency is involved in this project as well. And they are working to produce green hydrogen, but also e-fuels and biofuels. And, well, this is a very important project for us to also decarbonize the industry of the Basque Country. But then we also have 2 additional projects. In this case, these projects are being carried out by the Port Authority itself. We are investing in these projects to deploy the onshore power supply network of the port for all the cruise ships, container ships, and ferries. We are also investing to increase the basic infrastructure for the offshore wind industry. In our case, we are a manufacturing port. We manufacture the components in Haven. I think they are an installation or marshalling and operation and maintenance port. In our case, we are a Tier 2 manufacturing port. And so we are also increasing our basic infrastructure for that purpose. And a pillar is circular economy to achieve this objective. And the third project I would like to highlight is the importance of renewable energies at ports. I think that we have a huge potential that can be unlocked, and all these alternative fuels need renewable energies. So we need, I think it's been mentioned, that we can apply as a synergetic element for renewable energy projects, and that's what we did. With our Bilbob's project, we included 4 photovoltaic plants, and it was granted by FEF Transport. But we are also adding wind turbines to our port, because we understand that we have to develop a renewable energy model and share the energy with the green hydrogen plants for the OPS and the electrification of the port, but also for the offshore wind manufacturing plants that would also need a lot of renewable energy. So I think that's this synergetic element is very important as well. Well, this is our global project. This is the layout of our port. And the global project as of 2030. This is not an static picture. It's dynamic. 2 years ago, it was different. We have added some additional investments and projects. And, well, we are investing 165 million euros in these 3 projects that I have mentioned to deploy the onshore power supply network and to upscale the offshore wind industry and to invest in renewable energies in the port. And, well, in our case, this global picture is representing the projects with financial maturity, but we have a higher potential, I would say. We could do more in the future. If we had the support, we could scale up and go ahead. This is the cornerstone or the way We are understanding it now with the financial, well, funding we already have. So the most important project is the Bilbops project, is the red line. There is the OPS, the onshore power supply network. It's going to reach 7 quays of the port. We are going to have 11 connection points for ferries, cruise ships, and container ships. We are going to double the capacity of the electric substation of the port. And for us, it's important that works have started. We have started to implement the project. It's been a long journey, almost 4 years, to have all the studies, all the feasibility analysis, the permits, authorizations, long procurement process. So now we have started to implement 3 contracts, and we hopefully will award the last 2 major contracts in the next 2-3 months. So it's closer to become a reality. Now we are in a different stage. And as you see, we are adding renewable energies interconnected to the electric network. It's a synergetic element. We want to guarantee the green source of the energy provided to the vessels. And this is also a challenge because we want to make sure that this energy is green and also reduce our Scope 3 emissions at the port. And we are trying to balance solar energy and also wind energy with a battery storage system, but we need an energy model so that we can also share the energy with the green hydrogen production plant and also with the offshore wind manufacturing plants and with the terminals. So this is one of our biggest challenges right now, to unlock all this potential. We could also have more solar energy at the rooftops of the warehouses. This resource is not being used. We have 500,000 square meters in rooftops, but we need an energy model. These people don't need the energy. If we don't find a way to unlock this potential, they will not invest in solar energy. They don't need the energy. So this is also an opportunity, I would say, at ports. And then the offshore wind industry, you can see with the number 5 label. That's the second phase of the central quay. We are adding 30 hectares to the offshore wind industry, manufacturing plants. And we already have 200,000 square meters for manufacturing plants, but they are demanding more and more space, and we have to remove that infrastructure bottleneck also for all the industrial ecosystem in the Basque Country, which is, there is a very strong onshore and offshore wind industrial ecosystem inland and also in the neighboring counties, in Navarre and other counties, and they are demanding huge amounts of space in the port. So different actors are competing for the same space at the port. And we already have LNG, a refueling station, as I said, also investments in the decarbonization hub. And we are also working with our innovation lab on different test pilots and projects. We have started to do some pilots on biodiversity and restoration and other kind of projects. So to finish with our next challenges, we are working in different projects at the same time. We are at this implementation stage, as I mentioned, and works have started. But we are planning this renewable energy model for the port with the Basque Energy Agency, with the Basque government, because we have the knowledge of transport and logistics and the port, but we don't have all the knowledge about energy, and we have to put that together in a working group and see what the potential is for the port. And second, we are working on reporting, on corporate sustainability reporting directive and green taxonomy working groups, 5 or 6 departments at the Port Authority involved. and we are starting to do it. We have not finished yet, but it's a lot of work as well. And we have started to do a master plan on biodiversity and restoration. And this is at a planning stage, and we have 4 test pilots, but this is also something we have to work on in the next years, and also in infrastructure adaptation and resilience planning. We also have appointed a university to work on that. The Innovation Lab also, we have lots of startups and companies in the port, and we have the challenges have been identified, but we would need cascade funding or some instruments to unlock this potential in the port, and it's very difficult to find it at European level. So this could be very helpful as well for us. And just to finish with, I would like to say that financing is key. We talk a lot about cooperation, but if you have a grant, something that puts everyone together, you have a deadline, people cooperate, understand that we are receiving the trust of the Commission. So I think that financing is key, and if we are going to have an EU a strategy for ports, we need EU financing for ports at EU level, because otherwise they don't match. And we also need a regional commitment, because many of these projects are connected to the port community, to the region, and so we also need a balanced budget in different levels, I would say, so that it makes more sense for us, or is easier for us. And that's it from my side.
Yes, many thanks, Kate Lopez. Applause. Thank you. And good to make the circle round, let's say, back to EU financing for ports at EU level. I hope Sophie has heard this as well. Let's pass on without further ado now back to Heraklion, to the CEO of Grimaldi Lines. So Minas Papadakis, floor is yours.
Distinguished guests, dear delegates, first of all, thanks for the invitation to share some views, and congratulations to all the previous speakers for their comprehensive presentations. Ladies and gentlemen, imagine a world where ports are not merely points of transport, but vibrant sources of clean energy, contributing to environmental protection and boosting a sustainable economy. A world where our trade hubs do not burden the atmosphere, but instead promote health and life around them. The green transition of ports is not just a vision, it's the new reality. And today we will explore how the ports of the future are not only trade hubs, but also beacons of hope and change for our planet. Please allow me to start with a quick presentation of Heraklion Port before diving deeper into the issues surrounding its green transformation. Heraklion Port is a port with a long history, back to the Minoan civilization some 5,000 years ago. Heraklion Harbor was built in the 9th century by Iberian Muslims who invaded Crete from Egypt. The Venetians occupied Crete during the Fourth Crusade, 1206, and they enlarged the Muslim harbor of Candia, that was the name of Heraklion during the Venetian years, and built it as a port during the first 60 years of the 14th century. This was a period that Candia port played a predominant role in the Southeast Med and was called the Small Venice. Heraklion Port is a multifunctional port. It belongs to the core TNT network, and its basic income comes from the ferry sector and the cruise sector. Two big RoPax vessels are connecting Heraklion to Piraeus every day, and 4 high-speed ferries are connecting Crete to the Cycladic Islands every summer. 1.5 million ferry passengers, and last Sunday we broke the record of 500,000 cruise passengers per year. There is also a small cargo operation for the needs of the local economy, plus a small shipbuilding repair zone. The Grimaldi Group acquired recently, last September, 67% of the share capital of the Heraklion Port Authority. So now we are operating as a private sector company, although I must note that there are several serious restrictions from the concession agreement. Ladies and gentlemen, the maritime industry is undergoing a significant transformation to reduce carbon emissions and promote sustainability. Ports, as central hubs in global trade, are pivotal in this transition. The port of the future embodies several key features aimed at decarbonization. First, adoption of renewable energy sources. Modern ports are increasingly integrating renewable energy into their operations, and this includes installing solar panels, wind turbines, and other renewable energy systems to power port facilities and equipment. Second, electrification of equipment and vehicles. Transitioning from diesel-powered machinery to electric alternatives is a significant step toward decarbonization. Ports are adopting electric cranes, electric trucks, and other cargo handling equipment to minimize greenhouse gas emissions. Third, implementation of OPS systems. Shore power or cold ironing allows docked ships to connect to the local electric grid, enabling them to shut down their auxiliary engines and reduce emissions while in ports. This practice is becoming more and more common in ports worldwide, contributing to cleaner air and lower carbon emissions. Cold ironing is mandatory to all European ports that belong to the core TNT network by the year 2030, and the Heraklion port is one of them. 4. Development of alternative fuel infrastructure. To support vessels using alternative fuels like hydrogen, ammonia, or biofuels, ports are investing in the necessary refueling infrastructure. This development is crucial for the maritime industry shift toward low-carbon fuel options. 5. Digitalization and smart port technologies. Implementing digital technologies enhances operational efficiency and reduces emissions. Small ports utilize data analytics, automation, Internet of Things to optimize logistics, monitor energy consumption, and streamline cargo handling processes. Advances in digitalization are crucial in serving the wider decarbonization of shipping, with smart ports leveraging these technologies to optimize cargo handling processes and enhance security measures. Now let's elaborate a bit deeper into the concept of alternative fuels. We know that there is no single solution for the maritime sector. Depending on the distance to be covered and the type of the vessel, we have a bundle of solutions. In the shipping industry, fuels are often categorized by color, indicating their production method and environmental impact. So we have the gray fuels. They are produced from fossil fuels such as natural gas without carbon capture and storage processes. We have the blue fuels. They are also produced from fossil fuels but with carbon capture and storage technologies, so reducing CO2 emissions. And then we move to the green fuels. They are produced basically through renewable energy sources, like water electrolysis, and they have minimal or zero carbon footprint. Today, the shipping industry primarily relies on conventional fossil fuels, such as the heavy fuel oil and diesel, classified as gray fuels. The use of blue and green fuels is still in very early stages with limited application. According to data, LNG is considered a transitional fuel and is used in about 4% of the global fleet. Meanwhile, methanol and ammonia, which can be produced as green fuels, are gaining ground but remain at low using levels. Especially methanol is gaining ground both in the cruise vessels and the ro-ro vessels, as it has some unique advantages, such as advantages of ease of storage and handling, compatibility with existing infrastructure, and safe fuel properties. Here's a map of the different options. Overall, we can say that the blue and green fuels in shipping, the use of them remains limited, as we still face some problems with their availability, storage and infrastructure, maturity of technologies, and of course that of high prices. All these problems are still persisting. So grey fuels are still dominating. However, regulations and environmental pressures are driving increased investment and research to adopt more sustainable fuels in the future. The administration of Heraklion Port is very sensitive to the environmental issues and is fully dedicated to the green transformation of our port. Our strategy for the green transition includes three main pillars, i.e. the use of renewable sources to gain energy independence, the installation of an OPS system, and water desalination. Let's start with the renewables. We plan to use solar panels wherever possible, covering all the building roofs and some land plots available in the port and some that we own outside of the port. We plan to produce around 2 to 2.5 megawatts from solar panel. We are also considering the installation of small wind turbines on the windward breakwater. This may sound a bit optimistic to get approvals from the various ministries of Greece, but we will challenge them. And we are also planning a small pilot plan for producing electricity from the waves, and we will see the difficulties there. It's more in innovation stage. Water desalination. Water is becoming a scarce resource, especially on the island of Crete. Our port consumes 150 cubic meters of water per annum. Installing a water desalination system, we will reduce the water cost dramatically while simultaneously releasing large quantities of water for the residents of the city. Now for the OPS system, we have completed the studies for an OPS system under the project Electriport, which was financed by 85% by a CEF program, the previous CEF program. This is the general electrical arrangement of the project. We plan to equip 5 connection points at docks 1, 2, and 4, 5, with the purpose to cover all the basic needs, i.e. the 2 ferry sector that are connecting our port to Piraeus, 1 big cruise vessel which may need as much as 10 megawatts of power, and a smaller vessel, either a cruise or a cargo, simultaneously. A central substation will be responsible for the distribution of power at 11 and 6.6 kilovolts and 50 or 60 hertz of frequency after converting the national grid from 20 kilovolt and 50 megahertz with the help of frequency converters. We will be able to cover up to 16 megawatts loads simultaneously, and the total energy demand to cover the needs for the ferry and the cruise sector is estimated to 22.5 gigawatt hours per annum. Huge amounts of energy. We are waiting for the cable connection of Crete to the mainland grid to be completed so as to be able to offer green energy. Otherwise, it's useless, the whole project. And this project of cable connection hopefully will be completed by mid-2025. We estimate the total investment cost to be around 32 million, including VAT. and we're preparing to apply for financing at this current CEF call in January, hoping to earn a substantial subsidy for this project. When we come to the environmental footprint of the OPS system for the port, we can see here really impressive results by 2028, when we will have a completely green energy production for Crete. We are talking about 90% reduction in CO2 emissions. In closing, I want to leave you with a positive message that yes, we can. We can deliver better and greener ports. We can deliver better and cleaner environment. We can deliver a better and cleaner planet to the next generations. Thank you very much for your attention.
Many thanks for your presentation, your insights, again, related to our energy transition. And yes, we can. I think also today it's an important day also across the ocean. So yes, we can. Maybe that's a good bridge, I would say, for Janne. Janne Leino, so he's the director of the EU office from the region of Helsinki-Uusimaa. You don't have a PowerPoint, you will speak freely, which is good. The floor is yours, so please. Yeah.
Thank you, Karin. I saw four big... Each one goes, yes. Thank you, everyone. I saw four big men and one very small woman sitting in front, so I chose to stay. I just stay in the back. I thought that because I had excellent speakers before, I will not show a PowerPoint. I will just raise 3 points for the Helsinki-Uusimaa region, which I represent. I will go first on the topic of why Finland is the Greece of the North, a little bit as a catch here for the Cretans. Secondly, I would go a little bit on energy security, and third on the topic of climate neutrality and climate goals for harbors. So firstly, why are we the Greece of the North? When I came here, this is also my second time on Crete. I was here as a tourist before. Happy to be here now for work. I looked at the harbor statistics in the Helsinki region in Finland and in Greece. Helsinki region has 3 TEN-T harbors in our region, which is a bit over 50% of the Finnish transport capacity. From the exports we import and export, 96% goes on ships. 96%. If you look at the map, it's quite clear why is it so. We have a long border with Russia, which has been closed, so everything is going up at the moment. If you want to go by lorry or by car, you can go 7 hours in the north and go down in Sweden 7 hours down and drive the bridge. But this is the reality that we face. We have, similar than Greece, we rely on shipping, but we also rely on aviation. This is something that we always bring up when we talk with European decision makers. There's been a Okay, so I thought that I'll be moderating in the middle, but if the interpreters need, I'll stand here. So we rely on shipping and aviation. This has a lot to do also with our goals in the European Union. As you know, there's been talks about, for example, reducing air mobility because of green goals. This is something which for us is very difficult to do. Okay, so now you know that Finland is the Greece of the North, so we're happy to work together with you also on different EU issues. I think in many of those we are very aligned. Secondly, I would like to raise the issue of the role of ports in energy security. Nobody has still talked about the war in Ukraine. I think this is something I would like to raise here. We have a border 1,300 kilometers with Russia. And as a conclusion of the war, we have cut almost all ties to Russia. No energy import. We have an own oil pipeline coming from Russia. It's empty. There was a gas pipeline. It's empty. No tourism, almost no financing, almost nothing. So what does this mean for ports? Well, I'll give you one example. In Finland, when we cut down the energy supplies from Russia, we were reliant on that on certain stances. We organized to ship an LNG terminal, which is in one of the ports in the Helsinki region. It's a big terminal ship, so ships can dock there and then they can offload LNG. It goes into the Finnish grid. Also, the ship is connected to the Baltic Connector sea cable or sea connection to Estonia. Who has heard of the Baltic Connector incident? One person, but he's Finnish, so I don't let him speak. There are two other ones, one in the front, three in the front. So the Baltic Connector, as you know, was cut last year, 2023, by a Chinese ship having an anchor behind itself for 30 kilometers. So you are more maritime knowledgeable than I am, but the Chinese ship, apparently with the Russian crew, drove over these cables. There was also other cables and gas involved, and they were cut because the anchor went on the seaside. So this basically means that Finland has no connection to Estonia. We have something to Sweden, and ports are very life extension for us in Finland to keep also energy flowing. I will not go more into details than that, but I'm happy to answer questions on that. On the security side, what is on our topic at the moment, together with my colleagues, I guess, from Sweden, is that we are NATO members since last year. And in Finland, I know in Greece there's a hot debate on that, but in Finland you will find no issue, any issue, where people agree on as much as being NATO members. Before the war in Russia happened, 35% of people were for NATO, and after the war in Russia happened, we're now at 95% of acceptance of being members of NATO. So this changed overnight. So military mobility is also for us now a big issue, which connects to ports in the sense that how do we do big movements of troops? This is something we've been exercising before, but now it's not anymore that much of an exercise because the threat is seen as existential. This is something what we also talk a lot with the Baltic colleagues and with the Norwegian colleagues and with the Swedish colleagues. Military mobility and preparedness. Preparedness, and I go to my final point, the third point on environmental issue. Preparedness also means a whole of society approach. So what does it mean? We do now scenario work. I mentioned the energy crisis already, but what happens, we already saw an anchor. What happens if a ship comes in front of a harbor port and accidentally sinks there? I mean, I went running yesterday in Heraklion port. There is one exit and one outgoing there. So, okay, so sorry, the ship sank. There was some problem there. Okay, what do we do now? The main port is out of business. This is, for example, a scenario now in many of the Baltic state countries we have to kind of cope and work with. That also means environmental problems. What if there's a leak, intentional or not? How do we work with that? Well, looking at ports, we are very much for the 10T regulation, and we are a front runner, I would say, in greening the ports. I will give you some numbers. In Helsinki port now, the biggest one we have, the biggest one for the Greek audience and for the audience means is one of the top 5 ports in Europe by passenger numbers. We have around 10 million passengers yearly in Helsinki. The CO2 numbers have dropped by half since 2015. So next year, the CO2 output of the Helsinki harbor will be roughly around 100 CO2 tons, a bit less, hopefully, than the Heraklion border, which will be compensated voluntarily by the harbor. So this is something that the customers also want to do. For us, the problem with going green has a lot to do with electrification. That's because Finnish transport is short transport to Estonia, to Stockholm, or feeder transport, which goes to Rotterdam or Hamburg or the other harbors in the Baltic Sea. So it is a short transport, and we hope that electrification will be there the key. Now the problem is, how do we have a grid? Again, the energy issue I talked about. How do we have a grid which supports OPS, which supports the electrification? Already now, 100% of the electricity we use in the harbor in Helsinki is green. 100% is green. Why? Because of the taxonomy in Europe, thank you, France, nuclear energy is calculated as green. So we are a big country on nuclear. But anyway, it's green. But the problem will be, how do we support the batteries? How do we support the land connection of big ships which transport goods for further away? There is no solution on that yet. And with this, I would like to summarize my 3 points for the next Commission for the harbor strategy, as we've talked already today. 1, we need a strong CEF3. And I hope that all of you, I think here we are like-minded people, we are for a big CEF3. Now, I have to say, as we're not a cohesion country, half of CEF is anyway not available for us. So we also hope that the CEF3 encourages interlinkages between countries, because that's our lifeline, to the ships to Estonia, the ships to Germany, and to Sweden. Secondly, we look forward to having a port strategy which also takes into account the preparedness union. You know, the Niinistö report of the Finnish president, which was last week presented, it says, how do we secure infrastructure? I hope this will play a role there, so that we can harmonize in Europe and also save costs through that. And thirdly, but lastly, I already mentioned it, electricity for us at least is the key. So not only about ships, but how do we guarantee that the lorries can charge their batteries, and how can we have a grid that supports the electrification of shipping? Those are my main 3 points. Thank you very much. Sorry.
Yeah, thank you, Janne. Super interesting elements for further debate, I would say, later on. Not only energy transition, but definitely also the linkage with resilience from the former session. Yeah, without further ado, because we're always late at CPMR, I want to give the floor to Professor Theocharis Tsoutsos. So he's the Director of Renewable and Sustainable the Energy Laboratory of the Technical University of Crete. So happy to pass you the floor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So this is my presentation here. Hold on, please. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mrs. Chair, and thank you, colleagues. And also, I would like to thank the organizers for this invitation. This is a really very impressive conference. For me, it's better than expected, for me, personally. I have seen very good examples, and we continue learning. And I will try to give you some other thoughts, very complementary to what was already presented here. This is something which is very, very relevant to see the potential. I don't know if the presentation is correct. I don't think the president has a problem. Sorry. No. Sorry for that. Okay. No. Is this PDF maybe? I don't know. Okay. Sorry. I'll continue that way because I don't know what happened there. What is this about, to gain some time? It's, we have seen that we have the technologies there, we have the new ideas, we have the maturity, we have the policies, but what about the personnel? The ports are operating with people, with real people, so we need really to have some plans and some certifications for real people who work in the ports. This is all about, and we're happy because before some couple of years we submitted a proposal to DG Mar and SINEA as coordinators. This is a new idea to develop a certification scheme. Yes, now it's better. Okay. Much better. Sorry for this. Okay. Better. Yes. Okay. Fine. Yes. Can keep it that way. Thank you. It's okay. This was just our approach, but till now in this session, I'm very happy to see presentation from real hubs, from real implementation, for real projects. So I will skip this card and I'll go there. Look at this. This is from International Energy Agency. This is about the future. And what is the future? The future is full of ammonia, of bioenergy, and fuels, these kind of things. And we are here, and we're discussing with people from the port market, and we see that this is not exactly priority. We'll see, just as I said, we have seen covering all these countries. Spain, from Spain is Valencia, La Spezia from Italy, the authorities, transport authorities of Georgia country, the transport authorities of also of Tunisia, and this is not mine. This seems like to be very, very, very far away. And the future, we have created a scheme. We have added to what already presented some additional, let's say, activities like autonomous drones, autonomous cars, robotics, or symbiosis with the city. This is very important also, especially for us the islanders, symbiosis with the city. The port has high impact on what happens in the city. It's very, very important. Okay. But if you go and discuss with the people working in the ports have not, let's say, the competencies, all the competencies required to use and to integrate this transition. In some cases, there are people who are not technicians, have no technical background, or have a theoretical background, and they need more training. But the key point here is not training itself, it's certification to create competencies. Otherwise, training in the university will do a lot of things like train, inform people, etc., etc. And the key point is here the certification. This is very, very sensitive and not very common. What are the topics which are involved in this training certification scheme? The climate change, okay. We have seen a very good presentation by Rogan Company this morning. Energy transition, okay. Alternative fuels, this is a big discussion with the shipping companies. Circular economy, somehow already implemented somehow. Environmental protection, this is a necessity in all ports. And also digitalization. These are the 6 points, very important. We would like to train the people, the staff, and how to handle practically and help to energy transition. Which are our activities? First of all, we're going to create a certification scheme according to 17024. We have done in the past, we have this knowledge as a team. We have created this kind of schemes in the past, not relevant to the ports. We're going to train and certify more than 200 people. By this sense, we would like also to invite the ports of Groningen, the ports of Bilbao. Also, in this project is with us the port of Heraklion, and also from Finland, from Helsinki. If you would like to participate in this training and to help us to make it more broader and to create a scheme. Such scheme does not exist at the European level. It's something very new. We're very careful to, of course, about our students, because I'm an academic person. So we're going to develop some training courses special for students, and this is very necessary for our future. This is the roadmap. We have started before 11 months. The project will finish on 13th month, so we're about here. And with the help of also of the ports and we call national technical committees, we create a scheme which can be operational. Not very difficult, not very easy, to the point, and to provide some help to support the port authorities in this transition. This is exactly the key point where we are now. We have developed the syllabus, but now we're taking the syllabus to make it operational. This is very important because it's not our purpose to create a new master thesis or PhD thesis. It's only to create some competencies to the people working in the ports to handle and to go further and to see the innovations and handle and use the innovations. The technical committees have created in 4 countries, plus Tunisia, and work in parallel to us to create this kind of certification scheme. In the case of Greece, we're very happy because the Association of Greek Ports supporting our activities. You have already had some meetings also in Georgia. We're very happy because we work with Georgia and we have been there, and people were very enthusiastic to develop and adopt the scheme. Also the same in Spain, Italy, and Greece. And this is very important. This is the first finding for our survey. If you will see, this was circulated in our countries, and go there. We talk about alternative fuels, hydrogen, ammonia, and methanol are a little bit wired for the shipping. So this is what I have referred before. We try to create a scheme which can be useful and operational, not push them in exotic now, but to feel comfort, to feel very comfort when they try to apply and to make calculations, to make procurement, to understand what is storage, to see, to make some, let's say, indicative calculations in photovoltaic, how many square meters I need for photovoltaic, these kind of things, which are very, very necessary for the main decisions in the port. We're creating two different schemes, 2 different roles. One is for the operators, the blue collars. The other is for the white collars. Very different, the same topics, but with a different mix. And we try to create a scheme which can be, at this moment, covers Mediterranean and Black Sea as a scheme, and would like to promote it more in more areas for application, also for testing. As concerns the certification part, we are cooperating with TIF North. They will examine and they will provide the certification scheme also to the staff, not the university, a third party. Which are the benefits for the employee? The employees, we have an advantage. In the case of Greece, for instance, the union, the syndicate of the staff of Piraeus port is supporting what we do. We need also the people working in the port with us. For the port sector, of course, we offer, the idea is to offer certified staff which is able and proper to make some simple decisions and to operate. And for the society, to create trust and transparency to people on what we do. And this is very important, especially in the case of Crete. We have a lot of problems when we try to explain to people how important it is, for instance, to develop an offshore wind park. This is very important, very sensitive. And we hope that will help also in the greenhouse gases reduction. This is our website. You can go and click. We have already uploaded a lot of, I think, of very, very important information. And this is our scheme. I'm a professor in the Technical University of Crete in the Chemical and Environmental Engineering Department. I'm working in this field for about 40 years, 35 years. In the project participate the Valencia port. Of course, Minas Papadakis from first moment with us from Heraklion, DLTM from La Spezia, Maritime Transport Agency of George and Beef, and also I would like also to think that the Ministry of Maritime Affairs and the General Secretary who is with us is supporting us too much in this from the first moment, and also the Institute Mediterranean of Maritimes of Tunisia. They're waiting us to translate it and to make it in France, all this work, and to develop it in the North Africa. Thank you very much for your attention. I hope I was useful in the presentation.
Thank you very much, Professor, and I'm happy that you took on board, indeed, the whole issue of greening, of skills, training, a very important topic as well tomorrow on our Energy Day, I would say, with the new chair of Västra Götaland. We are doing a study also on the greening of skills still this year, or an analysis, and happy to take your, let's say, studies and results and your training terms on board for that. So, yeah.
So this is, just one, we have the technology, we have the policies, but we have also the people. Who will make, who will develop, who will operate? You know, we need the people not only to operate and help us, but to trust us also.
Indeed.
To put the trust on us.
Yeah. No, so that was very welcome as a contribution. Please take a seat. I will now open the floor for debate. We also could take in questions on resilience because, again, topics are overlapping. If I listened to now the last two speakers, actually, and if you look indeed at the development of alternative fuels, further decarbonization, ETS was already mentioned also this morning. Eyes are, of course, not only at European level. We have been addressing, let's say, the European policies, packages, budget, and so on, but definitely also for our ports and our maritime sector, it's quite important what is happening in London at the IMO. So there we see that there has been a new climate agreement concluded. Let's say a step up from the initial agreement from 2018. So that gives, let's say, a direction to the maritime sector. But we all know as well that in IMO London, I say we because, of course, as the Commission is part of it, Member States are part of it, we are working also on pricing mechanisms. So pricing mechanisms like fuel taxation, for instance, which, need to be urgently developed to give a further incentive to the energy transition and decarbonization of this sector. If I now go back then to the European level, if you look at the Fit for 55 package, of course, discussed also today, and you look at taxation measures, we see that an important proposal is still under negotiation in the package. It's the Energy Taxation Directive, but also proposals like taxonomy were mentioned, and of course obligations under the CSRD. So maybe my first question to kick off the debate would be, I know that's a new designated commissioner who passed, let's say, successfully now the test yesterday, but also a question also to DG Move. I hope Sophia is still there. What can we expect in terms of, transport, taxation, funding, and so on? I don't know, Sophia, is she still online? Can I ask?
Yes, I'm still here.
Super. A bit broad maybe the question, but if you could narrow it down from a DG Move angle, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Karin. Indeed, the Energy Taxation Directive, that's not our remit, and this is difficult in Council. I understand. Let's see if the new college can put some new impetus in the discussions. Because you're completely right, taxation is an important aspect, and talking about the new MFF, you might also have heard that there should be an important link between European funding and reforms. And there, of course, we also look at taxation on member states level, how member states can reform, adapt their national taxation system to help the decarbonization of the sector. More in general, I mean, thank you for all these helpful contributions and elements the other speakers raised. I mean, this confirms a bit our analysis, what needs to be done. We all know the investment needs are huge. We all know to meet the Fit for 55 package, we need substantive investments. We need investments in the production of fuels and in charging and refueling infrastructure, obviously, which is important for the ports, as going in parallel with investment with the electricity grids, which often today is blocking further development of recharging infrastructure. And we also need investments in clean fleets for shipping sector, retrofitting and changing to cleaner vessels, not to forget the energy hubs. So these are all big things that we are also addressing and explaining inside the Commission. And as also one of the speakers pointed out, and you also referred to it, Karin, it's not all about EU funding. Commission President von der Leyen was clear that we should analyze what can be done at national level and what can be complemented by private funding. But our experience with CEF also confirms that often this EU funding, which might only be a smaller part as well, sometimes depending on the fund, depending on the member states, the outermost region have very preferential treatment sometimes. So the EU co-funding might not be the biggest part of the funding, but often it's unblocking other funds on member states level, also private investments. So what Jana, I think, said, that putting everyone together around one project that has been initiated by a European grant is an important element of European funding as well. Voilà, this is what I would add at this point.
Yes, thank you very much from DG Move. I saw George Alisakis asking for the floor. Please, the floor is yours.
Sophie, ευχαριστούμε.
Thank you very much. Because we are currently in Crete and in Greece, I would like to see once again the map of trans-European networks and to zoom in Greece, where there are some dotted lines. Maybe if we could see the map once again, and would like you to explain us what are your proposals, what the trans-international network, the revised trans-international network proposes for our region. This is the second slide here. If we zoom in into Greece with Cyprus, there is an interconnection with Cyprus, Crete, Cyprus, Greece, with a dotted line. I would like you some more clarifications as regards to this issue, and of course the possibility of receiving funding for the proposed actions.
Greek English translation. The question here is, that's actually for also our next session here in Crete, the working group session on transport. So George Alizakis is asking about, let's say, the Greek dots, the Greek lines now on the revised TEN-T map, in particular also concerning ports. We will go into that quite detailed in our next session, but if from the European Commission, Sophia, you could respond to, let's say, the impact now of the TEN-T revision, in particular for the Greek region, including Crete. Thank you.
Thank you, Karin. Indeed, thanks for the translation. I was a bit lost in the question. You mean the possibility to still change and adapt these?
Yeah, maybe that as well. Indeed, yeah, the changes, let's say, made now, the corridors, the consequences indeed for the ports, but indeed also possibilities still, and we're going to talk about that quite in detail our next session on still making changes, during the coming legislative term, I would say. Thank you.
Indeed, thanks, Karin. Yes, I mean, this map that I showed to you, which indeed also impacts Greek ports, is the product of a lengthy discussion between the Greek government, the Commission, and also the Parliament. I'm not entirely sure if there were major changes for the Greek ports, but this is the outcome of, let's say, a two years discussion, and this is what is our basis for funding for the next MFF, basically. And which is very helpful also for the discussions on the upcoming financial framework, because we have now a clear basis that we can operate with. Looking more into the future, I mean, as I said, the TEN-T regulation just came into force, so the maps and also the ports on the maps can be considered quite stable, but as you will discuss later on, there are possibilities, particularly for ports, if they meet the requirements to be on the TEN-T network, or if they lose some of the required cargo volumes and other parameters. These maps can still be adapted in the coming years. There's a process, of course. The member states are involved, and this we will see in the coming mandate. Thank you.
Thank you, Sophia, because indeed we got some mixed signals from the Commission, but happy to hear that, the Commission is open to receive further input also on possible changes still here, and also looking at indeed the different criteria for which also CPMR in Brussels is developing, let's say, further criteria as well, including on accessibility. So, to George, indeed, at the coming working group session, we are going in detail on the maps, and we will show the map straight away. So, and we can further discuss then also the Greek situation. I would like to open the floor because I still had one or two questions myself on paper, but I think it's also important to pass the floor back to members, to the audience, maybe also people online. So if there are questions, the time is now on energy security, maybe still also on the Fit for 55 package, or we addressed already the upcoming EU port strategy as an important element. So the floor is open. Thank you. Yes, please introduce yourself. Wait, I passed. We have one mic. Good.
Yeah, thank you very much for this very informative seminar. And since you are discussing the budget, George Alexakis has just did, I would like to ask Sophie Trumpf, since she mentioned a lot of budget in the CEF2 and the coming CEF, who is eligible to apply for the calls that are going to be announced? Is it entities? Is it government? Is it prefectures? Is it academy, researchers? Who?
That's a good question. Thank you. This will depend very much on the structure of the new MFF. What would be like how we call it, centrally managed by the Commission, and then we will have calls, as you know it now, from CEF, where it's not only where you need the support of the government, but it's project promoters who can apply, or if we are more in a system of the current Recovery and Resilience Facility, where it's member states that are distributing the available EU budget. So this is far too early, I'm sorry, to answer those questions, and we would also be happy to know more about these aspects of the new MFF.
Sorry, I forgot to introduce myself. It was not very polite of me. My name is Panos Lukakos. I'm a researcher in the Foundation for Research and Technology. I have been dealing with hydrogen research, and this is the origin of my interest in this. Thank you.
Sorry for not having a more satisfying answer, Panos, for you at that stage.
Yes, are there any other questions? Jan.
Yeah, hello. Jon Eide, here representing North Sea Commission Transport Group, and it's a question for Sophie Trump. You said that it's possible for ports to, what should I say, improve their classification in the TEN-T network if volumes are growing. But the other side of that coin, is it also so that ports could actually be relegated from, for instance, from the core to the comprehensive network if they're not any longer meeting the defined threshold? Thank you.
So the quality was not very good. I think your question was, because I explained ports can be included in the comprehensive network, and you were asking if ports can be retrograded from the core to the comprehensive.
Yeah, if they fail to meet, or if they are not longer meeting the defined thresholds for volume.
I'm not sure how the relation is between the two networks. I mean, I'm pretty sure the regulation says ports can be excluded from the comprehensive network, again, if they don't meet the required thresholds anymore. But I'm not sure ports can go from the core to the comprehensive one, because I think the core network is a quite stable construction, and with major ports on it that I think should fulfill the requirements also in the future. But this you will have to discuss with my TEN-T colleagues who are taking care of adapting the TEN-T maps if needed.
Yes, I have the mic back. Are there any other questions? I can take one or two more, but then we need to move on. Maybe also questions to the panelists, or still regarding the former session on resilience. I don't see it's the case. Or George, you want to still come back to maybe the answer given by the Commission or on your question? No? Okay, good. No, I think we're fine. And first of all, I want to thank the panelists for their very, very interesting input and contributions. So, yeah, happy to be and keep in touch also the coming months. Also when, well, we see the new Commission work program coming out, ASP, hopefully soon now, and curious also about, of course, the new legislative proposals in relation to ports. So we keep in close contact. I hope also, Sophie, that also counts for us. So hope to be and stay in touch. Also with Philippe Chantren, of course. So please pass him also our regards and thanks. And big thanks also to you, Sophie, online still. So for having joined us, also including the short debate after, so very much appreciated. I'm now looking at the room because we are a bit, well, a little over time, I should say. From a Nordic perspective, we are a lot over time, but the workshop, we have now the interactive workshop, for which we would like to invite also the local stakeholders from Crete. It's a working session, maybe not of interest to everybody, but you're most welcome. So it's a regular transport working group. Regarding the time, I don't want to propose a break, but I just want to have a break 5 minutes, if possible, and then we reconvene in 5 minutes to start the transport working group, which is not streamlined, I should say. It's an internal session, so not streamlined. Thank you. George? Okay, let's take them now, because I thought maybe still including the outcome of the working group, but you're completely right. We do it now. The floor is to George Alizakis, Vice Governor Crete, for the final conclusions of this part of the morning. Thank you.
Yes. Τα conclusions ξεκινούν.
We begin from what we'll do tonight. I want to say once again that at 8:30 you're all invited by the region of Crete to a dinner with Cretan cuisine at 8:30 at the restaurant Merastre. It's called Merastre. The second conclusion is that it's very interesting, the following session, and I urge you all to stay to talk about the trans-European networks. What we have seen today so far, the concept port has got a whole different dimension. Now it's called an energy port. It's not a port, it's an energy port. It is a port where can produce energy on its own, as we saw the example of the port of Bilbao, that produces energy, but also can be a hub for transport, the transport of energy, as is the case of Port of Groningen, which is a very interesting case. Circular economy in ports is a concept that has not been, haven't talked a lot today, but in other meetings have talked a lot about the circular economy in ports and in general, and in ports in particular. Port security and of the networks that lead to ports is also an important factor, as was presented by our colleague from Helsinki, which is also a very important issue, port security. To sum up, as regards the resilience of ports, which by our speakers was highlighted that the port resilience is a crucial parameter for the infrastructure of each port and also for the people of each port. What John Stead said from Norway as regards that ports need to be resilient as regards its workforce as well, and Professor Tsoutsos presented how this can be achieved today in our own ports. So resilience has two dimensions, the dimension of infrastructure and the dimension of workforce. 10T, trans-European networks, in theory, meet the needs for transport for the regions. We have seen that the 26 billion euros is not enough that has been allocated so far. The ongoing projects now occupy 86% of this amount. But If you look closely at the map of the Trans-European networks, main Central Europe is very well interconnected, but the periphery of the European Union, the Europe of the periphery, as we say, is not that well interconnected. So we need further and better interconnection in the periphery of Europe. That means more higher budget during CEF3. It is a very important need for European funding. First of all, for European funding, and then from the members from each member state. We'll end with a very interesting phrase that
included in the word of importance. Very nice phrase. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, George, for your concluding remarks. Now the logistics. We do 5 minutes break. Then we try to keep the working group until 2, because people need to eat. So I need to eat too. I'm not so much of a breakfast somebody, so I need to eat. No, but we try to stop then around 2. So there's still time to have your luncheon. And then at 3 o'clock, we are going to the study visit, maybe a bit before, but that's the schedule. So hope to see you back in 5 minutes. Thank you.
We be in touch.